Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for the Rugby Championship in 2023. It's a slightly shortened format than what we did see last year, but it promises to bring a lot of exciting matches, including the opener, South Africa taking on the Australians. Now, this game has had a lot of anticipation, a lot of question marks that are soon to be answered, and I cannot wait to see who manages to get themselves the victory. Now, the game is about 1 hour away. It sounds like a while, but there's so much to break down for this contest. We've got stats. We've got all of this pretty much information from what has happened in the last year compared to the last time that these two sides faced off. And I will mention the last time that they did face off, it was in Australia, and the South Africans were able to win it relatively comfortably. But looking through at the starting lineup, first of all, for the Springboks, in this matchup now. The coaches, they did mention that they were going to be going with a little bit of a split side for this contest. The other men heading already to New Zealand. But number one, it is no longer Oxnashare. Instead, Stephen Kitsoff does get the nod. That is due to Oxnashare's injury. Means that Kitsoff gets himself that start at one. Bongyum Banambi starting at number two. No Malcolm Marx for this game for the Boks. And then number three, the big man, the scrummaging machine. It is Franz Marahaba. Looking at the two in the locking duo, it is Jean Klein alongside Marvin Ori. Now, Jean Klein, he's had a few internationals, just not for South Africa. He has been an Irish international in the past, and now Klein gets himself the opportunity for the Springboks. Makafan starting at number 6. Number 7, Peter Steftatoy. I am extremely interested to see how he goes in a head-to-head battle up against Michael Hooper. And then number 8, it is the captain, Dwayne Vermeulen. It's been a little while since we've seen that man in the Springbok kit. He did have knee troubles last year. He has signed a couple decent contracts in the last couple seasons. He has gone from a South African side to Ulster, of course, and now I believe he's on the move again, if I'm not wrong. But Dwayne Vermeulen, he certainly wants another World Cup under his belt. Perhaps this year is when he could get it. Kovas Reinach, he will get the start at number 9. A fantastic talent, always runs the ball hard and is lightning quick, which I think could heavily benefit them in this contest. Marty Lebok getting himself his first start. He will be at number 10. Andre Esterhazen on his outside at 12 with no Damien Dialende for this match. And then Lukanyu, the return that everyone has been much anticipating for the Rugby Championship. Unfortunately, we did see him injured near the end of last year, but now he is going to be back rearing to go. And I feel we can add a lot of stability in that midfield for the Boks and also open up the men on the outside, which does involve Kurtley Arinsa at number 11, Canon Moody out on the other wing at number 14, who did score an absolutely awesome try last year in the Rugby Championship when he leapt in the air above Marika Koromberi. And then number 15 to close out the starting side for the Springboks, it is Willie Leroux, but that is their starting side. We will look through the chat very quickly. We have got South Africa to win, but really excited to see what Eddie has done for AU. Says a username. Very true. At the end of the day, Eddie Jones, brand new coach for the Wallabies. And I believe that it's going to be one of those situations that, of course, they won't take like a duck to water straight away. It will take time for it to start working for the Aussies, for them to click, to find those combinations. But I feel like this game up against the Springboks, it's the perfect opportunity to see where you are sitting overall, because at the end of the day, you're versing a world-class side, you're versing the Rugby World Cup defending champs, and, you know, if it's going to work and it works against these boys, perhaps it could be the tactic that helps them going forward. What time is kickoff? It is 5 South African time is the kickoff, says Hensel, so in 55 minutes, he has said. And there as well, I fancy Oz winning this. Dark horses for the World Cup this year, says Robinson. And the big thing is, Australia come in as underdogs. South Africa have got a brilliant record. The last time that Australia were able to get themselves the victory in South Africa was 2011. So it's been quite a while. And I feel like maybe that will play on the Australian mind just a little bit, knowing that none of these players pretty much were playing international level at the time of the last victory. How much do you know about the team playing now and the lineup for the World Cup squad? Says Reiko. I know that at the moment, there's still a lot of testing going on for the Springbok coaches. They want to make sure that they're finding the ideal group to head to France and take out the championship. So Rugby Championship, of course, will be brilliant for them, but I believe that it's more the long game that the Springboks are playing at the moment, which is why they have gone with the two splitting sides for the game up against Australia and the game up against New Zealand. But I believe the other side of that is because they want to make sure everyone is well rested and everyone is raring to go for that upcoming Rugby World Cup. Any update on the resumption of match? I haven't actually been able to catch too much of the Ashes as of yet. I know that it was pouring down with rain not too long ago, though. So I'd say it's still probably a little bit off. Do you ever get any sleep overseas backs to blades? I try to sometimes, not before this, though. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be maybe about midday tomorrow, or midday today, I should say, in New Zealand, seeing as it is 2:06 a.m. So, yeah, it's going to be a relatively late night, but I'm looking forward to it. We've got the game between Argentina and New Zealand that will be taking place after this one. And regardless of today's result, the Springboks are in a much better place than they were in 2019 at the same time, says Albert. And that is a scary thought for other teams. I know that they are on a tough side of the Rugby World Cup draw. We are going to be looking at that in a very short moment. But first of all, of course, we should look at their opposition. The side taking them on at Loftus here, it is the Australians and James Slipper, the co-captain, starting this match at number 1. Dave Parecki, big opportunity for him, starting at 2. And Alan Alatoa, a man who I believe had unfinished business with Eben Etzebeth. Unfortunately, we don't get to see that business commence this time for the Rugby Championship, but perhaps at the World Cup, if the stars align, we may get to see them go head-to-head once more. Nick Frost, brilliant young player for the Brumbies, have one of the highest line-out wins percentages throughout Super Rugby Pacific, and alongside him, the big man who has been playing in France for La Rochelle, it is Will Skelton, who is always dangerous, no matter where he is on the field. It's pretty easy to spot him. He's normally the player who just towers over everyone else. Tom Hooper, a debutant at number 6, massive opportunity for him in this game. It sounds harsh to say, but it's almost a little bit of a make or a break. It's pretty much a, what is it, sink or fly? No, what's the saying? I don't know what it is anymore. I'm too excited for this game. But pretty much if he ends up rising to the top, he's going to possibly have himself a spot in either the starting lineup or off the bench heading into that Rugby World Cup. Whereas if he doesn't quite get it right in this game, perhaps they do decide to reshuffle a bit. And speaking of Wright, Fraser McWright, not playing in this game, but was the leading try scorer in the games of head-to-head between the Wallabies and the Springboks for the Wallabies side. So he would have certainly loved to be playing in this game. But instead at number 7, they have gone with Michael Hooper, the other co-captain. A lot of experience on his shoulders. Didn't play last year, which is where Fraser McWright got his opportunity. Now that he's back, we'll certainly notice him out on the field when he is up against this box side. Rob Bellatini at number 8, a crash ball runner, a dangerous man to have out on the field for the Springboks or against the Springboks. They've also got Pete Samu, will be coming off the bench a little bit later on. Nick White at number 9 with Quade Cooper as the number 10. Now, Quade has had a few injury troubles in recent times, so it's fantastic to see that he is now back. Also a player returning, similar story as Samu Karevi. He will be coming off the bench for the Wallabies also. Reece Hodge gets a starter inside centre with Len Ikitau on his outside at number 13. Now, Len Ikitau is a bit of a dark horse in this Australian side because when he is playing well, not only is he setting up tries, but he's scoring them as well. And his battle with Lucanio in this game is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And it could be a battle of, who can free up the outside the better. And we don't see Makazole Mapimpi. We don't see Chislin Colby for the South Africans, but they have got those young guns of Kurtley Arinse and also Canon Moody. And for the Wallabies, they've got Marika Korombedi and Suliasi Vunivalu, 2 dangerous players. Suliasi Vunivalu, fantastic season for the Reds. Be hoping to continue that momentum into international duty. And Marika Korombedi, him and Makazole Mapimpi were at each other's throats last Rugby Championship, mainly because of that massive shot that some people are still debating whether or not it was a wrap of the arms from Marika Korombedi on Makazole Mapimpi. But yes, certainly a dangerous man to have out on the wing. He will be going head-to-head with Canon Moody for this matchup. Tom Wright will be starting at number 15 for the Wallabies as well. But now looking back at the chat, we have got a donation from Viliami. Thank you very much, mate. Hugely appreciated. The match will be 4:05 Irish time for the Rugby Championship. I think South Africa are favourites to win this match. They certainly are. And with that winning record, I believe it's out of the last 11 games they have, or is it the last 7 games at home? their 6 wins, 1 draw against the Wallabies or something along those lines. They've got a very good home record anyway. And at Loftus, in front of a packed out house, I'm sure they're going to bring that intensity. They're going to want to hang on to that record. And they should have a decent chance of doing so, I believe. And Skelton back on the squad well, says Danny Fatsacks. And also another man coming from the overseas side of things is Richie Arnold, getting himself the opportunity. He has been playing for Toulouse in the top 14 and now does make his way back in. But we will have the Springbok and the Wallabies lineups going along the bottom of the screen as we look through at a few of our other statistics. I think South Africa are favourites to win this match. Yeah, they are actually alongside New Zealand. Those are the 2 favourites, and they will be going head-to-head next week. Do you think Rassie has still got the edge as 4 years ago, says Reiko? I know that he's lost a little bit of time in terms of with his suspension and everything, but now that he's back, I feel like he has just been sitting, waiting, scheming, working out what the tactic is going to be. And I think it's going to be possibly, I mean, if there was going to be a Springbok coach to take out another World Cup in this upcoming Rugby World Cup competition, it would be Rassie Erasmus with the tactics, with the genius mind being able to work out exactly what he needs his side to do. Is Rassie still a key? Yeah, I think so. And I think him and the neighbour in a combination, I know that he is leaving, Rassie is staying, and I think he's going to go pretty decently. Quickly looking through at the benches, then we will be looking through at some stats to do with this matchup for the South Africans. Joseph Weber, Peter Steph-Toy, and Vincent Koch will be the replacement front row. So no Trevor Nakanye. And also I should mention that they haven't got Malcolm Marx, of course, a player who everyone would have loved to see for this contest. They are saving him next week for the game up against the ABs. And the same with one of the lock replacements, Eben Etzebeth. Instead, though, they have got the return of RG Snyman. We may actually get to see 2 Munster men in Klein and also Snyman side by side throughout the later stages of this contest. Ivan Ruiz at number 20, Dion Forey at 21, Grant Williams, and also Damien Willemse. So the 6-2 split is what the Springboks have decided to go with in this match. And to be honest, it's a pretty strong tactic to be using, because when you have the Wallabies tired in the later stages of the match, when the fatigue starts to set in, that is when they're going to be finding the most success. That's actually what we saw in their first game up against the Wallabies. Although it wasn't a winning effort in that contest, it was still a very good performance later on in the game, and that was when the Springboks really started to ramp it up, and that was because of the energy that they still had left over with that 6-2 split. For the Australians, John Nalisi, Matt Gibbon, and Zane Ungor going to get himself the debut in this game up against the Boks. Richie Arnold, like I mentioned a little bit earlier on, at number 19, Pete Samu, number 20, Tate McDermott, Samu Karevi, and Carter Gordon. Another debut for the Wallabies. So unlike the All Blacks, the Wallabies, they are trying out a few of the new players. South Africa B team, says Inspector. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a B team. I feel like the whole of the Springbok side is world class. Some would even argue that Australia have gone with a slight B team in this contest, with the fact that they have got a few of their main players or some of the other players that they would have liked to use. They have decided to leave them out for now. So I feel like both of these sides, yes, they might be missing a couple players, but both still have the potential of winning. And when you look at this side, and if you're thinking B team for the Boks, tell you what, it's a big insult to the guys out there on the park, because they've got more than enough ability of being able to not just win this game, but put a whole Rugby Championship underneath their belts. And making myself some fries in the air fryer, but had a few hours sleep before, says Novmum. And go the Bok, Beer and Bry ready, says Chalabi. And Joseph Weber should only come on if the victory is well in hand, says Mo. And go Australia, says Floyd Kingy. So as we get a little bit closer to the kickoff, do let me know, ladies and gentlemen, your score predictions for this matchup, because, I mean, there's a lot to break down in terms of how this match could end up going. We saw the Wallabies start quick in the first game last year of the Rugby Championship. But then also in that second game when the South Africans played the Wallabies, we did see pretty much a Wallaby side who couldn't find their feet out there in the game. And this game, it is going to be taking place in South Africa rather than the two last year, which both took place in Australia. Looking through at the upcoming Rugby Championship fixtures as well for these two sides. As you can see, next week, New Zealand taking on South Africa. That is at 7:05 p.m. New Zealand time. Should be an absolutely awesome game. Australia, they will be taking on the Argentines. That is at 9:45 p.m. New Zealand time. So a lot nicer time zone-wise for us here in New Zealand compared to these upcoming ones that we have got at 3:05 a.m. and also happening at 7:10 a.m. Then we've got a week's break. Then the week after that, Australia versus New Zealand. That is the first game of the Bledisloe Cup, as well as the final round of the Rugby Championship. And South Africa, they will be taking on the Argentines at 5:05 a.m. South African time. And that game could just about sum up who wins the Rugby Championship, depending on how it ends up going. And it's a B.5 team, not completely a South Africa B team, but still really strong side, says username. I agree. I feel like it's one of those ones that, like, these boys have more than enough potential. And in some regards, some of these young combinations we are now seeing has been what quite a few Springbok supporters have been asking for quite some time. I know that Dwayne Vermeulen at number 8, I think quite a few people are interested to see how he will do, seeing as he has had a little bit of time out. He has been coming back for Ulster and doing not too badly, but he's still getting a little bit closer towards the end of his international career. So people want to know, has he still got one big World Cup left in him, or are they going to have to go with one of those other players, such as a Jesper Wiese, such as maybe Evan Roos as a young player could start to cement himself as a decent chance? This is actually how the Rugby Championship finished last year. New Zealand managed to get themselves the 19 points on the board, South Africa getting the 18. But those two sides, they were the stronger out of the Rugby Championship competition. People wondering whether or not history could repeat itself here. Although in our podcast, I actually predicted South Africa to win the Rugby Championship. We have got 32-21 for the Boks. Boks going to win by 12, says Alta, and South Africa 25-27 for Floyd's prediction. 45-19, says Dreys. And what time is the match on Irish time? Well, I'm not in Ireland, but I assume that you guys, it is 16:05, so 4:05 p.m. Irish time. How do you make your thumbnails? Do you automate that process using some template? I do not. I have to sit down, make every single thumbnail, which is why sometimes the live streams go up at random hours of the night, more than likely because I haven't got a thumbnail made for them on time. Pretty much. Is it nearly that time, says Connor? Well, if you're in Ireland and it is currently whatever time it is, 4:05, you're about 50 minutes away or somewhere around there. I think it's Tonga, Romania, and then Irish in the first round. What are your thoughts about that, Sir Hamish, says Oreco? Well, do I have some information for you when it comes to the World Cup? There we go. Scotland, Romania, Ireland, and Tonga. I've got a whole heap of pop-ups that we're going to be using all throughout this pretty much build-up to this matchup. But yeah, the first game up against Scotland, that is only 63 days away. That is exciting stuff because, yeah, I guess South Africa, that is a must-win up against the Scottish, of course, but then the other must-win is definitely this game up against the Irish to try and get yourself a little bit higher in the seeding. And then in that case, you will possibly make your way towards a Rugby World Cup quarterfinal against either New Zealand or France, depending on how you rank and depending on how they rank. Everyone in that World Cup is going to be absolutely crucial. For the Australians, they have got themselves Georgia as their opening contest, Fiji as the second, Wales as the third, and they close it out with Portugal in 84 days' time. That is at 4:45 a.m. New Zealand time. But we will be covering all of those Rugby World Cup games on the channel, ladies and gentlemen, so be sure to stick around for those ones. Also, if you are new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thor, great in his time, but Father Time has caught up with him. And Boka Boka Boka, come on, Box, says Rugby Itch, and also the Bok 27-17, says Blues Nate. And the prediction for Vermeulen said in his interview, he's never felt this good as now, says Albert. I'm intrigued to see whether or not it replicates on the field, because we always know Dwayne Vermeulen as that guy, how if they're 5 meters out and they're like, oh, we need someone to tap this and go, it's going to be him. And I'd like to think that he would still have that mentality of just throwing himself at the line, because South Africa, you'd have to say, if they are being physical, they should have that advantage out there on the field. I mean, Australia, they've got some big boys such as a Will Skelton, such as, Rob Bellatini as another guy who could have quite a bit of physicality out there. But some of those Bok loose forwards, or the Bok forward pack in general, are just different beasts. Franz Malherbe, he'll throw himself around all over the park if he has to. Can't pick this one. I just hope it's a good game, says Thorfinn. Yeah, I think most people are hoping for a close game. I'm a part of that bracket. I said in my prediction I was going with Springboks to win at 27 points to 18. there's an interesting fact, which is that the Springboks, in their last 7 matches against Australia on home turf, they have never conceded more than 20 points. So for Australia to win this game, historically speaking, they would have to make sure that they can keep the Springboks down to maybe around that 15 or so and get themselves like an 18-15 win. But that would be quite tight, quite hard to do up against the South African side with some lethal finishes on their outside. You're just seeing them come across the bottom of the screen at the moment. Kurtley Arinsa, Andre Esterhuizen, great opportunity for him to start at inside centre, but Canon Moody out on the other wing. Certainly looking forward to seeing what he can do and if he can replicate what he did last year in the Rugby Championship. Just looking very quickly at the technicalities of this Rugby Championship competition. 4 points for a win, 2 points for the draw, 1 point for a loss of 7 or fewer. So that is something that even when you are losing games in such a short format, that extra point that you can get yourself might be the difference between 3rd and 4th. And then also 1 point for scoring 3 or more tries than the opposition. That is one of those ones that I have felt the need to mention, because a lot of competitions around the world, they say if you get 4 tries, you get yourself the bonus point. Rugby Championship is a whole different ballpark when it comes to that rule, because you can get yourself 4 tries, the opposition can score 2, and then you don't get that bonus point. You could get yourself 4 tries, the opposition gets 6, no one gets that bonus point. So it's very important that if you're going to chase that bonus point, you can't really take a lot of threes, definitely not in this kind of shortened format. And I'm curious to know how much that impacts the way that these sides play, whether or not anyone does start to chase that bonus point early for the sake of trying to win the Rugby Championship rather than trying to win a singular matchup. And we will see some sides try that maybe, and maybe it will cost them. But I'm very curious to see how that plays into it, because, yeah, that bonus point, like I mentioned, could be the difference between a win in the Rugby Championship or possibly missing out. Vermeulen would be devastated or devastating off the bench. 20 minutes ago, says Floyd Kingy. Are you doing the New Zealand match tonight? We certainly are. It's all scheduled, ready to go on the channel for the matchup between the All Blacks and the Los Pumas. That's going to be an absolutely awesome game to watch. Cannot wait to see who manages to get themselves the victory. But of course, we have first got this game, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. It is only 40 minutes away from kicking off, ladies and gentlemen. It may sound like a wee while, but we've only brushed the surface in terms of the amount of random pictures that I've got that we're going to be popping up on the screen. First of all, I guess we'll look at what the Springboks did in the last Rugby Championship. Or we might not, because it looks like it's disappeared. One moment, we'll click this button and it will be back. Someone stole the Springbok picture. There we go. It's back now. You can't see the bottom one. We're going to have to change that. There we go. So the Springboks last year managed to get themselves the first win in the Rugby Championship competition. That was up against the Kiwis, getting themselves to win 26 points to 10. Quite a comfortable victory over New Zealand. They would have been more than happy with the way that they started the Rugby Championship. Then the week after, it was New Zealand who were able to get themselves that 35-point to 23 victory. So Springboks beating the New Zealanders by 16. New Zealand then beating the Springbok by the 12 points. So you'd say just a little bit of an edge in favour of the Boks in that regard. Then they were up against the Australians. They were defeated in the first game in Australia, 25 points to 17. The next game they played a lot better. They managed to try and stop the Australians from finding any form of momentum. And 24 points to 8 was the end score for the Boks in that one. Their first game up against Argentina was successful, 36 points to 20. And then their second game, the last of the Rugby Championship, 38 points to 21. But it just shows that even though, like, I would say that the 2 Argentine games, I was trying to work out where my fingers would be. But yeah, the 2 Argentine games were pretty identical in terms of the points that were able to be scored. But I would assume this year, with that game taking place in South Africa, it's only in a couple weeks' time, or about 3 weeks. I'm not sure whether or not the Pumas are going to be able to hang with the Boks, depending on how well we see the Boks playing in this contest and next week up against the All Blacks. Looking at how the Wallabies got on for last year's Rugby Championship, they were successfully able to defeat the Argentines 41 points to 26 in the first game of the Rugby Championship competition. That second game, though, it was a record high for the Argentines, 48 points to 17, and what could only be described as a one-sided affair. They were able to beat the Boks, like I mentioned, but then defeated the week after New Zealand narrowly, getting themselves that victory in that 15th of September game. If I remember rightly, that might have been the game that Bernard Foley took too long with a kick. I could be wrong in that, but I know that happened relatively recently, and it may have just been that game. Then the next game after that, New Zealand able to win it 40 points to 14 to take out the Rugby Championship. And I believe it was actually that game that they managed to receive themselves the bonus point, which did help them get over the line. But since then, we have seen these two sides in action. This is the South African November internationals that they did have, not getting off to the best start. Unfortunately, they were defeated by the Irish, 19 points to 16. They will go head-to-head with them in the Rugby World Cup group stage, like we mentioned a little bit earlier on. They were also defeated by France, but both of those games extremely close. So I feel like even though they were defeats, they were still right in the hunt. Could have easily gone either way. They were able to beat Italy relatively one-sided, though, 63 points to 21. I think the under-20s recently repaid the favour for the under-20 Italians, getting themselves the victory. And then South Africa versus England, the rematch of the World Cup final. Anytime it happens, people get goosebumps. People have their eyes glued to the screen. And the Springboks are able to win it 27 points to 13. Now, I know that it's always mentioned the score in that final. I'm sure that if I ask the question, can anyone tell me what the score was between the Springboks and England in that 2019 World Cup final? I think we'll see it pretty quickly. For what it was, Blues, are you showing game live on TikTok, says Dre's. Are going to be an interesting start to the Rugby World Cup, mate. Lots of great and interesting teams put together in the first round, says Reiko. Not the best Bok team, but a good one. Boks to win 32 points to 19, says Dion there. And a few smiley faces. Has got Springboks to win. And I'm doing all right, brother. Been working and uploading vids and shorts on my new YouTube channel and TikTok, says Scrumley. So being keeping busy in the YouTube algorithm and TikTok. TikTok's one thing that I've never been able to work out. I know that we had videos going up there when George was doing them. I have no idea how the app works, to be honest. I don't even think I have it downloaded. Who will win the two semi-final spots out of France, South Africa, Ireland, and France? Only two of the four can get through. Well, I see that you've got France twice, so that will increase their percentage. I assume one of those is supposed to be New Zealand. Okay, only two teams out of France, Ireland, New Zealand, and South Africa can get through. Well, I think it's all going to come down to who would they rather play. You know, I feel like New Zealand, they would probably much rather play the Irish in the quarterfinal, even though they have been getting defeated by Ireland as of late. I think they would much prefer that South Africa go head-to-head with France, because the later that you play the Springboks, the defending champions, in a competition, the better. You don't really want to have to face them early on in a quarterfinal, because that's when they're going to be absolutely firing, and you know, you're going to have to be playing your best rugby, which some would say that no matter what, when you get to the quarterfinals, you're going to have to. But you also don't want to be that side that get knocked out early because you have faced off against a side that's got a real good chance of winning. And I feel like that's the case for all of those sides on that side of the draw. Whether or not there's an upset somewhere along the way, maybe we see Scotland make themselves into those quarterfinal fixtures, and then all of a sudden it's a whole different ballpark. So Hamish, be honest, please. What is your prediction for today's match? We won't judge, says Reko. Well, on the podcast earlier on, I did predict 27 points to 18 in favour of the Springboks. So I feel like you'll be pretty happy with that prediction. A few Australians may not be, but that is what I think it's going to be, or something around there. I feel like the Springboks, they'll start this match maybe a little bit more methodical, try and work out what the Australians' tactic is going to be. I think Australia will start this game extremely quick and try and put the pressure on the Boks. But as the game wears down, as we get later on the clock, I think that once the Aussies start to slow down, the Boks will start to prosper. And that's when we will end up seeing just a little bit more intensity. And that's actually a little bit similar to what we did see last year for that first game of the Rugby Championship. The only difference is the Springboks weren't victorious in this game, but I feel if they do go well in the last kind of 10 to 15 minutes, I think they could get themselves a victory in there. If y'all would check it out and sub to my channel, I'd appreciate it always and forever. Love y'all, says Scrumlass there. So is it the Scrumlass channel or is it on another channel? Scrumlass. Do let me know. And up there, Legion, says Blues Nate. And what team is Mutton Nonu on? I tried to watch the MLR semi last night. Says Mo, I think he's a Legion boy, isn't he? San Diego Legion. It's another channel. Says it's Scrumless in there as well. But looking through quickly as well at the Australians, what they were able to do in their November internationals. Now, they actually had an extra game that was up against the Scottish, where they were able to win it 16 points to 15. They lost to France by 1 point. So that is one thing that these two sides have in common, both losing to France last year in the November internationals. Did New Zealand also lose to them in the November internationals? France were on a bit of a roll last year, if I do remember rightly. But not only did they lose to France, they also lost to Italy, 28 points to 27. They also lost to Ireland, 13 points to 10. So something else that these two sides have in common for last November. And then they were victorious over Wales, 39 points to 34. A relatively high scoring one in that regard. But I feel like this game, with the fact that they haven't been able to score more than 20 points up against South Africa in the last 6 or 7 games at home for the South Africans, that's going to be something to definitely look at. One moment, we will go like this. They are actually just showing a little bit of the build-up. Looks like it's going to be relatively full in the stadium. They also said a little bit earlier on in the day that there was a little bit of wind around, so hopefully not going to play too heavily in terms of how this game is played. Maybe we see a couple kicks early on just to test out that wind, but it's supposed to be dry, which is brilliant news, as some of the weather that's been hitting South Africa lately has been pretty rough. We just got to look at that under-20 Rugby World Cup to see that. Box with a 30 points to 16 win, says Johan there, so going with a 14-point win. So that wouldn't be with a bonus point, or is it with a bonus point, Johan? Of course, 3 or more tries than your opposition gets you the bonus point in this format of the Rugby Championship. And I think it's going to be extremely important that they do. I mean, they just need to get it right, don't they? If they get it right in this game, they will be able to get multiple tries back to back to back. And Teals are just using the Rugby Championship as a build-up to winning the Rugby World Cup, the cup that trumps all other cups, says Lloyd Kingy. And thank you, Hamish, for your honesty, says Reiko there. But yeah, I feel that the South Africans definitely have got a good shot in this game. If they play the way that we think that they will be able to, then I think it's going to be a nice mixture of the young and the old all coming together and working as a cohesive unit. Bonus point guaranteed, says Johan. Well, okay, so it's quite a tight one in terms of the 30 points to 16 for that bonus point, but 3 tries or more than your opposition, that is all you need to be able to walk away with the victory. Khan Australia, says Daddy Fat Sacks, and Eddie was also coach of that England team, the Box last year, says the Snooze. He was, although I think he almost, at that point, knew he had 1 foot out the door. But, yeah, it certainly will still sting a little bit, knowing that he was defeated by the side that he is now going head-to-head with, but he's got a whole new group of players to be able to work with. As you can see, some of those guys who were going across the bottom just before, he's got a Quade Cooper, who he did not have in that last one. I feel like he will have to take on a heavy playmaker role for this matchup, because if he can get that right, and the Wallabies are able to get that backline flowing, have Len Ikitau on the outside. He is one of those players who is absolutely fantastic when he gets any sort of open space. And I feel like that will be one of those guys that could completely change a matchup for them. They've got Marika Korombedi out on one wing. They've got Suliasi Vunivalu out on the other. South Africa will want to set the bar in the game, says Patrick. Yeah. And I feel like it's a bit of an interesting one because, of course, with the coaches going with a split side, having some of the players fly to New Zealand early, having some of the players stay. These guys who are staying, they want to prove that they should be in that starting lineup next week when they do go head-to-head with the Kiwis. And, you know, there's the perfect opportunity, the perfect window here of 80 minutes to be able to change that momentum and, you know, maybe get yourself that spot. Someone, you know, I want to say someone like a Dwayne Vermeulen might get himself a spot off the bench if they do want to try and get him a few more minutes and maybe look at him as a finisher rather than a starter. A couple of the locks, RG Snyman, he's coming off the bench for this game, perhaps could get himself the start if he does work extremely well. Nick White will milk a red card for someone touching his mustache, says Floyd Kingy. I guess that is one thing that a lot of people remember from that last Rugby Championship. Nick White Buff de Klerk, yellow card. I think we don't need to say too much more about that. A lot of people still will boo Nick White, and I believe as soon as he makes his way out onto the field or they announce that he is in the side, they're not going to be happy with him. New Zealand never win the short version of the Rugby Championship, says Patrick. And a fun fact that I was told recently was the fact that the Springboks last time in 2019, they won the shortened Rugby Championship. They then went on to win the Rugby World Cup. And I believe that, I think Tim also mentioned that it was the only time a team had won the shortened Rugby Championship and the World Cup in the exact same year. So perhaps, if they can continue the trend, walking away with a victory in this World Cup and the Rugby Championship, I mean, the Box will be on cloud nine. That is for sure. South Africa will beat Australia, says Grant. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, 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 says Daddy Fat Saxon. Roger, says the snooze in there. But yeah, I should say welcome in everyone to this live stream. A few Kiwis might just about be waking up for this game, or Australians. Maybe they've stayed up a little bit later, so it is hugely appreciated you guys all being here for the stream. If you are new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, because we are going to be back for that game between the All Blacks and Argentina. That is taking place at 7:10 a.m. New Zealand time. So be sure to check that out as well. New Zealand. Oh no, I read that one, didn't I? And thank you so much, brother. You're the best. Says Scrumless. I'm hoping Australia get thrashed, as it's in my Kiwi DNA to pray and then celebrate the failures of anything Australian, says who am I. But I think New Zealand, they will definitely use this game as a scouting mission. I don't know whether or not, I'd like to think Ian Foster would find a TV somewhere to be able to watch this game on and try and work out how he's going to try and take down the Box. But the problem is, he might look at this side and go, okay, I've worked out a couple things that I want to use to our advantage next week. Then the Springboks will have almost a completely different 23-man squad. And maybe that makes it even harder to predict what they're going to do. So in some ways, you're better off maybe not even seeing this game if you are Ian Foster, and just kind of going, right, we know the Box are going to be strong. They're going to be physical in the forwards, and we just need to try and match them for that physicality. And Argentina looks dangerous. They certainly do. Not an easy win for the Kiwis by any means of the word. It is going to be a tough game for them. And, you don't want to lose any games of a shortened Rugby Championship, let alone the first one, because from then, you're pretty much completely playing the catch-up. Box 17 points to 12 win, says Estienne. That's probably the lowest scoring game that I have seen suggested. But some people were thinking maybe, if that was the case of being a low-scoring game, we'll have a real test match feel for this first contest. Well, Skelton starting at lock alongside Nick Frost for the Australians. A dangerous combo. Jean Klang getting the opportunity for the South Africans after playing for Ireland at international level. So he's been there, done that, and also he's had some very good playing for Munster as of late. So one to watch out for throughout the lineouts. Khan the Aussies, says Amelia K. They've got a young Tom Hooper making his debut. Suliasi Vunivalu, he's only had one match, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, he got injured in that game. So, even though he's only had the one match, it was a shortened match, so now this is going to be a real test for him. We're going to see a team from each pool playing, says Jimmy Lister. We are indeed. And we've got the World Cup pools here. We will look, first of all, at the South Africans. They are in a group alongside Ireland, Scotland, Romania, and Tonga. And, Tonga have got a great squad at the moment. Springboks, that game's going to be physical. Scotland, quite a physical outfit at the moment, trying to use their backline a lot more over the last 12 months in a more, tactical kicking game because of someone like a Finn Russell who is stepping up as fly half. Ireland, they've been on a tear lately, and they will certainly want to make it out of that group stage. New Zealand, they will have France, Italy, Uruguay, and also Namibia. Looking through at Pool C for the Australians, they are alongside Wales, they are alongside Fiji, Georgia, and also Portugal. The English alongside Argentina, Japan, Samoa, and also Chile. So the Rugby World Cup, I've actually got some dates here. The first Springbok game is only 63 days away, ladies and gentlemen. And it just feels like it's going to be a real atmosphere when it does finally take place up against the Scottish. Last time that those two sides played, it was a physical game. Like I said, I don't see that one being any different at all. And Tonga will win Pool B. And I wish I was streaming the game, but I can't because of the time. I don't want to wake my family, says Amelia K. Hopefully I do not wake my family either, or else everyone will probably look annoyed at me in the morning. But this is one of those games that's going to be hard to hold or contain the excitement for it, because not too far away from kickoff. How many championship won apart from New Zealand? Says Mostan. Thanks for the company, Amy. Bears should start off just right and we'll give it a wait of for near 20 minutes, says the snooze. Also, red card in the first 10 minutes. I hope not, but, you know, there's been a lot of cards recently in rugby. So, shall we have a prediction? First try scorer, ladies and gentlemen. And if there is an early red card, who will be the player who receives it? I'm going to say first try scorer in this match. I'm thinking Bongi or Manumbi has got a very good chance of getting over the try line, as I believe South Africa will look at this game. If they are feeling confident, they'll look at it as an opportunity to get a lot of tries on the board, try and get that points differential up, and then also alongside that, try and get themselves that bonus point. The 5 points, that's the main thing. Come on, Aussies. I'm going Springboks by 10, says Xavier. And to be honest, going to be a good match next minute, says Blues Nate. Well, at least we hope it is anyway. Evan Ruiz to get the red card if there is one. I mean, we did see, who was it? Who was that fella in the Curry Cup game who kind of looked like Evan Ruiz? He's one of the younger guys. And he went flying in late and ended up cleaning up someone after they scored a try. I feel like because he kind of looks like Evan Ruiz, maybe that's why everyone, but then he is very physical as well, isn't he? Evan Ruiz, and but cool, no tries in the game, says Xavier Brown. They should drop 4 teams from the Rugby World Cup. 20 teams make the tournament drag on, says Floyd Keeney, although it is only an extra week, isn't it? I guess when you take it into consideration. So it's not too long overall. I feel like quite enjoy the idea of getting more sides in there just because it does give more countries an opportunity. Some of these lower guys like Chile, Uruguay, they're all getting the chance that maybe they could have missed out on. And definitely with 2026 just around the corner and them looking at bringing in a slightly smaller, or I guess smaller compact group of 6 nations versus Rugby Championship without getting a few of those tier 2 nations involved. I feel like Rugby World Cups are the perfect opportunity for them to get their chance. You're going to show the game, says Wally. Sadly, due to licensing, we're unable to show any match footage or audio. I do apologize for that, but the highlights will definitely be on YouTube relatively quickly after this contest, and normally it doesn't take too long for someone to upload the full match onto YouTube after the game has taken place as well. Seeing Super Carter Gordon on the bench makes me happy, says Amelia K. Yeah, big opportunity for that youngster when he is going to be going head-to-head with, more than likely, it's going to be Damien Valimza as that last option for the Boks. And I actually said in the prediction, I felt they would go with Libok as the starting 10 and they would have Valimza coming off the bench. The reason that I went with that was because I felt like if Libok is kicking well, then they might end up having him start the next game up against maybe they went to New Zealand already, says Craig there. What, Damien Valimza? Or, oh no, as Kelsey playing. Why can I not think of who Kelsey is? Sounds like it's raining here. Hopefully that's not the case at the ground. And it does look like the sun is out. There's a little bit of breeze, so it might make kicking a little bit more challenging. The Storm fan of me is happy because we've got Kurabedi and Vunivalu starting on the wings and praying that we don't cop any injuries. We need a full-strength squad for the Rugby World Cup, says Amelia K. And that World Cup, it's only 60-something days away. Like I mentioned, the kickoff for this game, only 20 minutes away. Lebok will play number 10 today, says Johan. He certainly will. And I feel Valimza, there's 2 places, or there might be 3 places. They might consider him as a replacement for Andre Esterhuizen late in the game if he is injured. But then they've also got the option of playing him at fullback, or they've got the option of playing him at fly half. But Lebok, it's going to be a big opportunity for him. We've seen his kicking be a little bit 50-50 for the Stormers throughout the URC competition. I thought he was talking about Khaleesi. Yeah, he is. That's one of the more random ways that I've seen Khaleesi spell, I'll be honest. But you've done well, Craig, to work out I was the South Africa captain, says Connor. Going to be hella convenient for me starting, and my new TAF will be getting up in the morning because I'll be able to catch some games before I leave, says Amelia K. And there as well. But I'm looking forward to this young combination of Kobus Reinach and also having Mani Libok, because Reinach, his father was a fantastic runner, very quick. Reinach's the same. I see that he's got that gene from his dad, although I think his mother was also relatively quick. If I am right, I think they said that before, that both of his parents were quite the athletes, and one of the new Aussie members will get sent for doing something dumb, says Jimmy Lister. And will the new URC season start in 2024? Certainly will. Although it might actually start in 2023. I think it's actually about, is it normally December that it gets underway, or a little bit earlier than that? In fact, it might be. We see big RG Snyman in the background. He certainly is a little bit taller than the rest of the group. Although Peter Steph the Toy, some people underestimate how tall that man is, or just forget how tall he is, because he is quite the unit. And with him playing number 7 in this game, it's going to be fantastic to see him out there going head-to-head with Michael Hooper. And we have got there the ref, says my path, and is Khaleesi playing? He is not. He has travelled to New Zealand, though. The players who are in the starting lineup, well, we will go like this, and we will go like this. There you go. This is the starting lineup for the South Africans in this game. Oxnashare was supposed to be number 1, but instead, because of injury, it now means that Steven Kitsoff, the 71 cat skipper, I almost said, but he is the skipper for the Stormers. He will be going as a loose head prop for this one. Bongyum Benambi at number 2, and Franz Maharba starting in as the number 3. Jean Klein at number 4, or Jean Klein, sorry, I should say, with Marvin Ori at number 5. I think Ori, he's definitely going to need a big game here, because there are quite a few decent locks in the Lurkins. Ebenezebeth Ludeacha isn't playing in this game either. RG Snyman returning from injury. We don't see Salman Morat in the side anymore. So Marvin Ori is going to want a big one so that he can help cement himself a chance at their World Cup. Maka van Staren, physical ball for the Bulls. Also actually got the most turnovers out of the URC competition. The man who got the second most coming off the bench, and that is Dion Fourie. Although I believe Fourie actually played a couple less games than Maka van Staren. So to have a Jackler who's in there in the starting lineup, then you have a Jackler who will be coming off the bench as well. It's going to be massively impactful for the Springboks. Peter Steph the Toy at number 7, and Dwayne Vermeulen starting at number 8. And he is also the captain for the Springboks. And this matchup, Kobus Reinach at number 9 with Mani Lebok on his outside at 10. I believe Lebok will have the kicking responsibilities for this game, and he will hopefully have a decent enough run. Jean Klein, as a previous Irish player that swapped citizenship back to South Africa, says Johan certainly did. And with those new eligibility rules, it meant that even though he did have caps for Ireland, he is now able to play for the Springboks in this one. Andre Esterhuizen at number 12. No Damien de Allende for this match. And I feel like that could be, this is going to be make or break for Andre Esterhuizen. And I'll say that because a lot of people aren't completely sold on him yet. I know he's a class player. We see him play very well for the Harlequins throughout the Gallagher Premiership. This is international level, and they need to know that they've got a solid replacement for if Damien de Allende does end up with any sort of injury heading towards the Rugby World Cup. Also on his outside, Lukanyuami is a man who did have an injury last year, missed quite a majority of the year's rugby, but now he's back, raring to go. Should be absolutely awesome. See what he can do. Kurtley Orinsa out on the left wing, Cannon Moody out on the right, and Willie Leroux slotting in at number 15. Then for the South, or I almost said for the South, I guess they are a little bit more South, for the Australians, it is going to be James Slipper at number 1, Dave Parecki at number 2, and Alan Alatoa slots in as the number 3. Nick Frost and Will Skelton, the 4-5 combo. Now, Frost has had a sensational Brumby season for Super Rugby Pacific. Like I mentioned, Will Skelton doing well overseas for La Rochelle, and I don't expect it to be any different for this international fixture up against the Boks. And he's probably one of the forwards for Australia that can match that physicality that the Springboks have for themselves, because he's just absolutely huge, isn't he? Tom Hooper, massive moment for this youngster. He's going to be making his debut in this contest. Some people thought maybe they would go with Pete Samu in the starting lineup, but Eddie Jones has a plan. And he thinks that the plan is to have Tom Hooper start and have Pete Samu come off the bench later on in the game. Michael Hooper, the co-captain at number 7, and that's Rob Valentini at number 8. Another Brumbies representative. They've actually got quite a few Brumbies throughout the lineup for this week. Nick White at number 9, probably one of the least popular Australian players from a South African perspective, mainly because of what happened between him and Faf de Klerk last year for the Rugby Championship. Craig Cooper at number 10, Reece Hodge at 12, Lena Katau at number 13, Marika Korombedi at 11, Suliasi Vunivalu at number 14, and only his second game, so a big opportunity for him. And Tom Wright He was also a Brumbies player. He's also very angry a majority of the time. He really gets fired up when he's out there on the park. And that is something that maybe the Springboks can use to their advantage. If he ends up having a slight breakdown while he's out there, pardon the pun, it might end up working in their favour. Easthuizen is amazing. He will do well, improve himself, says Grumless, and support our Tasmanian brother, says Moss, and Bok will be with a very dynamic back three, says RJJ. Yeah, a lot of youthfulness out on the wings, and then the experience of Villy LaRue. They're already piling into the stadium at Loftus Versfeld for this game. And like I mentioned, a little bit windy, but the conditions overall do look very favourable for a good game of rugby. Yep, my Grey Goose Vodka said ready. Mary Jane 420 Jane said ready up, says Blues Nate. And who is kicking for South Africa? It is going to be Mani Libok by the sounds of it. Will the game be live here? Sadly, we aren't able to show any match footage or audio on the channel. I do apologise for that, but we are going to be doing our live commentary for the game, and it is not too far away at all, which is extremely exciting stuff. But what we will quickly do is we'll go like this and like that. Milking penalties is for soccer players, says Floyd Kingy, and that is something that he has done a little bit throughout the Super Rugby Pacific season, is passing that ball into the grounded opposition to get yourself the offside penalty. I'm not 100% sure who the referee is going to be for this game, but depending on how they interpret the law will depend on whether Nick White gets the Aussies 1 or 2 extra penalties. Go the Southern Cross, says Moss there, and it's where they are playing. Or where are they playing, says Reiko. They are playing at Loftus for this contest. So the Vodacom Bulls home stadium. They've got a couple Bulls in their side. Cannon Moody, one of the more young guys from that Bulls setup. Also Mako van Staren. Like I mentioned, he has had a huge amount of turnovers, one for his side throughout the URC competition. But quickly looking at, I guess we'll look at the future Rugby Championship fixtures, as some people aren't too sure about when the games are taking place. New Zealand playing South Africa next week. That is at 7:05 p.m. New Zealand time. Should be an absolutely outstanding one. Australia taking on Argentina. That is at 9:45 p.m. And those two games are a part of round 2 of the Rugby Championship. Then we've got a 2-week break. Australia taking on New Zealand at 9:45 p.m. on the 29th of July. And then on Sunday morning, just a little bit after that, it will be South Africa taking on Argentina. And Full House jam us some Bob Marley, baby, don't worry, says Blues Nate. And Oz Pretoria and Bull's going to crush it. Or Bop going to crush it, sorry, says Byron. And are they doing the national anthems now, says Mr. Billy? Not quite, but they are getting very close to it, only 12 minutes away from the kickoff in this contest. And also we have got, I just messaged Rassi, and he replied with traffic lights, says RJJ. Are the two hoopers related? I don't believe so. No. They both play relatively similar in terms of that physicality and the breakdown, but yeah, no relation that I know of. I'm pretty sure all 14 forwards South Africa will get time. Can the Australian forwards hold up, says Craig Webber? Well, the tricky part for Australia here is if they aren't winning that forwards battle, or if they aren't even close in that forwards battle, that is where South Africa are going to make their meters. That is when they're going to be able to unleash their players on the outside. I think for Australia, physicality needs to be probably number one priority throughout this contest, because if they aren't being physical and they are allowing the Springboks to counter-ruck, which I believe they will, I think Mako van Staren, he'll be sent in as a jackless, same with Peter Steph Toy, and then Big Dwayne Vermeulen. I'm not sure whether or not he'll be going for so many turnovers, and it's probably going to be more of the case of seeing the Toy and also seeing Van Staren do the main lifting for it. Ben O'Keefe, New Zealand as the ref, says Frank. Well, hopefully he walks out of this game without too much abuse, because he was one of those fellas for the Super Rugby Pacific final, and he got pretty much brutally abused by a whole heap of supporters. Are we watching the game, or is this a talk show? This is live commentary without the game, Barry. So for being able to watch the game, you're probably going to need a subscription of some sort. Or you might have to, I mean, there are options of watching it for free, though. You just got to know where to look. No game footage will be shown today for copyright reasons, Barry. And come on the box, says Jack Botha. And also, where can I watch this, says Leo. So if you are looking for an option in South Africa, DSTV is normally the only option that they have got. In Stans, or in Australia, you can actually get a Stan Sport free trial, which will give you access to the Rugby Championship, but just for the 1 week. Sky Sport now in New Zealand, they have also got a free trial that you could use. You would need a VPN to be able to access it, though. is the only side of it. Mark Nawakwanatawasi reserves, not for this game. No, instead they have given Carter Gordon the opportunity, the young number 10. And I hope that he does end up playing well. They believe that he will end up coming on the field for Quade Cooper. That is due to him only recently returning from his injury. Now, the Rugby Championship, they are just showing the field again, and I believe we are getting very close to the national anthems of these two sides, ladies and gentlemen, and then we are straight into the action. We have still got another game just around the corner as well. I should mention it will be New Zealand taking on the Argentines. Anyone who is new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it is very greatly appreciated. We are covering all of the Rugby Championship and also every single game of the Rugby World Cup. Who is the ref for the next match? No idea. I didn't even know the ref for this match until Frank let us know just before. They are talking about the conditions, little bit of wind, but still looking like a beautiful afternoon for a game of rugby. Covering the All Blacks game, says Jimmy Lister. We are indeed as well. So who are we playing, or who are playing next? What does it do for the upcoming World Cup? Says Reiko. Who are playing next? I assume you're talking about who you're playing next after the Rugby Championship. The actual next game after the Rugby Championship for the Springboks is actually going to be up against Argentina as a Rugby World Cup warm-up game. They have also got Wales. That game is yet to be confirmed in terms of the time that it's going to be starting, but yeah, it is taking place on the 20th of August in the early hours of the morning. So be sure to also check out that one for the Australians. I believe they play France. Yes, they do, on the 28th of August. And then they've got the Bledisloe Cup game up against the All Blacks. That will too be taking place. Angus Gardner is the ref. Nick Berry and Jordan Way is the assistant referees, says Jimmy Lister. And how's it from GQ? Says Sean, welcome in. Hope you are doing extremely well. Anyone got a Vuvuzela? Not that I can hear of as of yet, but that is because they've got the dramatic music playing instead. So we haven't been able to hear over the top of it. But now looking through at the starting lineups for the last time before we get underway in this contest, ladies and gentlemen, as the players are just about to make their way out onto the field. Oxnashare starting at number 1. Or sorry, I should say he was going to be up until Stephen Kitsoff does make his way into the starting side due to the injury of Oxnashare. Bongio Manambi at number 2 and Franz Malharba there at number 3. Jean Klein at number 4, getting the opportunity for South Africa after having international games for the Irish. Marvin Ori at number 5, and a big game in front of him could help cement himself a spot in that Rugby World Cup. Maka van Staren at number 6 with Peter Steftotoy at number 7, and then the captain Dwayne Vermeulen gets the opportunity at number 8. Kobus Reinak and Mani Lebok going to be the 19 combo. A couple younger players, but both enjoy that attacking style of rugby, trying to run through the gap. Perhaps they will use that tactic early on up against the Wallabies, get a little bit of go forward. Andre Esterhuizen and Lucanio the midfield combination. Kurtley Arinse, Kenan Moody, and Willie LaRue will be the back 3, and that will be a very exciting couple wingers to watch out for in this matchup. Looking through at the Australians, James Slipper, Dave Parecki, and Alan Alalato as the front row. Nick Frost and Will Skelton will be the locking duo. So big Will Skelton, we're just seeing him walk out of the tunnel there, creates a shadow over anyone else who is around him. The guy is an absolute unit. And speaking of units, Richie Arnold also off the bench for the Aussies. I think he's about 6'6", 6'7", somewhere around there. Going to be sitting similar to RG Snyman when they both make their way off the bench. Tom Hooper, Rob Bellatini, and Michael Hooper. They will be the loose forward trio for the Wallabies. Nick White at number 9 with Quade Cooper as the 10. He has recently returned from his injury. So a big opportunity here for him to see what he can do. Reece Hodge at number 12 with Lena Cattell on his outside at number 13. And he was probably the Wallaby of the Rugby Championship last year. For me anyway, in the back line. He was absolutely sensational. Marika Korombedi out on the left wing. He has a bit of a rich history up against the Springboks. And a little bit of a fun fact, any game that Marika Korombedi has scored in up against the Springboks have lost. So there's that to remember. Possibly won't play factor in this game though. Suliasi Vunivalu out on his other wing, and Tom Wright there at number 15. But these two sides, they have made their way out of the tunnel. The national anthems are just about upon us. And then we are ready to go. Hey, congrats on 25K. Thank you for that. Thank you very much, Blues Nate. Hugely appreciated. And I'm in the Western Cape and the weather is hardcore. Hope the weather is better up there, says Reiko. And I hope it's a good championship, my southern friends, says Orion. And there as well. Yeah, the Rugby Championship, the fact that it is back, the crowd are pumped up. The We've had fireworks at the ground already. There we go. A couple more going off. And then we are going to be ready for this match. One of the South African fellas getting right up in the face of the Aussie lineup. Cultural performance coming out. They are indeed. And also we have got there the Springbok from Reiko. And also the Rugby Guru is doing commentary on this match as well, says Patrick Brady. It's great to see him back after that little bit of time that he was away. I think he also was dealing with a copyright issue on his channel. And I've been looking forward to the competition for a good while now, says Username. And yeah, if there was ever a time for this competition to get underway, it is right now, just before the Rugby World Cup. It ends up building more and more hype for everyone as we move forward in the competition. You know, we start counting down the days. We're almost getting to the stage of if you had an advent calendar with 25 days on it, in 1 month's time, you're going to be able to use that. And you'll be able to count down the exact time until New Zealand play France in the opening World Cup fixture. But Duane Vermeulen, the South African captain, you can tell that it's a special moment for him. The age of 36, I believe he is at the moment. But you know what they say, age is just a number. I think Duane Vermeulen has been proving that as of late because he is a phenomenal talent and will be for some time to come. The Warriors, says Blues Nate. And that man is Jack, says Daddy Fat Sacks. And big love, everyone. Australia need to lose for the world to win, says Sebastian. The defending champion, says a snooze. And remember, Australian government is now making it easy for New Zealand to live in Australia. Let's support our Tasmanian, or is that their Tasmanian brothers, says Moss. And the South African flags from Alta, but the South African national anthem, it will be second, seeing as they are the home side. First of all, we have got the Australian national anthem, and then we are almost ready to go for this Rugby Championship fixture, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, do let me know your score predictions in the comments down below. Who do you feel will be taking out this contest? And also, who do you think will be the first try scorer? Who is the broad singing? Says Daddy Fat Six. I was not looking at the name, unfortunately. Transtastic, says RJJ. And yes, Alta, says Jack down Big Love All. Says Grumless, I'm walking. Or I'm working, sorry, not walking. Won't be able to watch your commentary. But the commentary will fully get, says Username. So hopefully we will keep you nice and updated in terms of who will be taking out this victory. We are seeing the Australian flag flying in slow motion. Seems like there's a few Aussies in attendance for this one. Although there is a little bit of booing going on while the Australian national anthem has come to the close. It will be the South Africans who are now hearing their national anthem, and this will fire them up in front of a home crowd. Last year for the Rugby Championship, they played Australia in Australia twice. And with the home field advantage, they are certainly going to be trying to use it. They've gone with that mixed squad, like I mentioned. It is going across the bottom of the screen. That man there, RG Snyman. Watch out for him when he comes off the bench. I just hope he gets through this Rugby Championship unscathed and we are able to see him for that Rugby World Cup because I feel he could be an absolute game changer. This game will be make or break for Vermeulen, says Floyd Kingy. And also Walking, says RJJ. That's yellow, not Aussie support. It's a sun on the crowd, says Gareth and Evan Ruiz to be the first to score in this Rugby Championship match. Oh, so you're saying the first try is going to come in maybe the second half or after an injury for the South Africans? I mean, it could be a low-scoring game. I think every point is going to be absolutely crucial, which is why the South Africans, if they get the early penalty, they will be sure to bang over the three, and the same can be said about the Australians. I believe they will have Quade Cooper kicking from a little bit closer, and then also that option of Reece Hodges' long boot if they do need it alongside the shorter kicks. I'm very excited. The Rugby Championship just about here. George Box Allway says Sia Ossi. And louder for Aussie, says Moss. And there as well. But Billy LaRue, one of the more veteran players of the Springbok side. Him, Duane Vermeulen, a few of those older fellas who are going to really have to help some of these younger players get themselves over the line in this contest. But now the national anthems are done. And we are now ready to go, ladies and gentlemen, for the Rugby Championship 2023 opening round. Vermeulen takes the jacket off. He's now got to put on the captain's role and see what he can do out there on the field. Some players for Super Rugby, they've been playing very recently. For the Australians, for the South Africans, they've had to wait a couple more weeks since the URC did come to a close. What's going on with the Springboks, says Daddy Fat Sex. And that man got a black eye already. I mean, They like to warm up hard, that is for sure, and they're going to be a physical outfit. And I guess that should be a fair indication that this game's going to be physical. If they're willing to give each other black eyes in the warm-up, they're willing to give the Australians 1 or 2 each. And Loftus, in front of a sold-out crowd, it looks like it is going to be the Australians who do kick this one off. There is a man who is currently sitting on a Segway driving around, so they'll have to wait till he is off the field, I would think. It looks like he's actually... Is he going to stay on the field during the kickoff? Surely not. Just in case this one goes backwards. Show us the power of the back line. Bok. Try, says Reiko. And Gareth in the house. Says, wait, what? And also we have got there, show us the power. Oh, no, I read that one. And Box will tell them. Tell them. I don't think I've ever heard that term. But I assume it means beat them. But that is going to be 2 planes flying over the ground again. I think we saw some jets earlier on as well. They've certainly put all the budget into the planes around the ground, but we are now ready to go. Nick White to kick off this Rugby Championship competition. Peter Stiftatoy, they're showing him there. He is going to be so key for the Springboks. That is a shiner and a half. I think there was Gene Klein, actually, who did have the really black eye at the moment. I promise to behave tonight, folks. Says Gareth. The Springboks will win 27 points to 12. The toy for the first try. We are just waiting for the music to stop. The DJ doesn't want the party to end. He's just blasting his tunes. Right, we're ready to go. The whistle is blown, and Nick White gets us underway for the Rugby Championship 2023. It's kicked off over the top of Peter Stiftatoy, but claimed by Mani Libok for the Springboks inside of their own 22. Looks like Kobus Ronak looking both ways, but decides to go to the left to Marvin Ori. Tackled by Michael Hooper, and also the big man Will Skelton, but Ronak back into the pocket to Willie LaRue. Some decent distance on that one, and it does go into touch. A great clearing kick for the veteran to start off this Rugby Championship match. Do you have a clock? Or do you have on the clock? It should start updating in the very near future. As soon as they realise that the game is kicked off. There we go. Has now got to go. You good thing, says Moss. It's going to be overthrown by the Wallabies, but it works out well. Reece Hodge takes it and bumping off Bongi Umbanambi. White goes off to Lena Katau. Now to Quade Cooper. White cut out pass to Marika. Korimbiri decides to bulldoze almost over the top of Willie LaRue, but he is able to hang on to the boot. Nick White now kicks it in behind. Taken by Cannon Moody inside of the Springboks 22. Keeps the kick low, but gets it down towards the halfway line. Another decent clearing kick from the Springboks. In fact, it was Mani Libok. We ended up with it off the left boot. 21 points to 12 is Nip's prediction. Again, Australia, Korimbiti says Daddy Fat Sacks as well. Dave Parecki, his first line-out throw, uncontested by the Springboks. Interesting tactic. Early on now, Nick White, short ball to Rob Ballatini. It was a flat pass. That's a bit of physicality shown there by Peter Stiftatoy to drive him backwards, but here comes Will Skelton. Tackled low by Frans Malherbe. Now Mako van Staren hands over the ball, wins the penalty. Before the match, I mentioned about it. He would be a jackler. He'd be trying any turnover that was becoming available, and he gets over the ball. He's done it for the Bulls throughout the whole of the URC. He's done it again for the Bok now. It looks like they will be taking on the 3 points early on. It is Mani Libok from about, I'd say that's 55 metres out. I think for his first start, he would have liked a slightly easier kick. But great work from Maka van Staren to get over that ball, get the turnover. I think it was Dave Parecki just arrived a little bit later and wasn't able to get himself the clean out. Mani Libok calling for the tee. In fact, he might even be calling for someone to hold the ball at the moment because it is relatively windy at the ground. And also penalty South Africa. No swearing, Gareth says Reiko. And come on, blokes, there's 300 of you watching. Hit the like button. There's Gareth there. And 55 metres out, like I mentioned, for Mani Libok's first kick of the day. Not easy for him, you would have to say. But he will be trying his best to get this one over. 55 metres is in Hamish's mum's range. It sounds like an insult, but I know what you're referring to. It was from the video last year, of course. Now he did the goal kicking. Looks like he's just come up short for the distance, maybe by about a metre. The accuracy was there, but unfortunately for Mani Libok, it means now that he is 0 from 1 for today. Willie LaRue goes across to Kobus Reinach, looks for the kick, but it is charged down by the big man, Nick Frost. Now, if he had been able to take that ball, he would have almost been gone. He is that quick for a lock. Now the ball bounces at the back for Kobus Reinach. Goes to Marvin Ori Libok. Goes Willie LaRue on the outside. And it's kicked out on the full. Australia now will have themselves the line out from back where it was kicked from. Gareth needs 10 on the bin, says Jason. And also we have got is All Blacks favourite to win this Rugby Championship. They are followed by the Springboks. But in my prediction, I actually said that it would be the Springboks who were victorious for this Rugby Championship in the shortened format. Dave Parecchio, I should say, throws to the front. The slipper. Resage puts up an up and under chance into the 22. Doesn't look safe for Willie LaRue, but he has done extremely well to take that as cleanly as he did. Takes the quick tap and now drives towards the 22. Boots it downfield off the left boot. And once again, the Springboks clear their lines towards the halfway line. Hey, Mick, where do you shoot crocs around here? Says Mr. Papa Giorgio. Did you used to be Aussie, now convert to the ABs, lad? Says Chris Brown. And 20 minutes in the bin for Gareth, says Alta. Now Dave Parecki throws it in nicely, taken by Nick Frost that time. They did contest for the ball, the Springboks. How would I know? Brain says Mr. Papa Giorgio. Now the rolling ball's still going, though it has now been dragged down by Gold. It's available at the back. Nick White looking to use his box kick again. Try and get the Wallabies a little bit more of that territory game early. Looks like Marika Koromberi chasing hard. Tackles Cannon Moody. Was it high or was it round the chest? It looked like it was riding up a little bit. Now, Springboks are able to hang on to this ball. They don't have Kobus Reinach at the moment as halfback, so instead it will be Willie LaRue. It looks like he might even consider rolling this one back, although he might go to the forwards first. Might be the better option. He gives it off to Marvin Ori. Now, Kobus Reinach, he was underneath that breakdown. Rolls the ball back. They will be able to use that kicking game once again. Conor Betty smashed him, says Daddy Fat Sacks. And also Rugby World Cup Championship is either going to the All Blacks, South Africa, or Ireland, says Jimmy Lister. Now Kobus Reinach off to the left-hand side. Marvin Ori to Lebok. Now Willie LaRue again looking for the kick in behind, trying to get the 50-22, but just keeping it in the field of play was Tom Wright, backing himself on the short side. Thought about the offload. Almost threw it into Andre Estes, and they may even have a look at this one to see who it has come off. A great tackle made by Estes in there. Tom Wright getting through the tackle attempt of Kurtley Arnsur. It might have been knocked out by Andre Esterhuizen, but it is going to be the throw. Oh, it is actually the throw for Australia. They have switched it from Bongium Numbi to instead Dave Parecki. They're showing there Jean Klein. Got the black eye. The Springboks gave him, saying, why did you ever play for Ireland? And they smashed him. But he's out there now for the box. Now Dave Parecki with this line out for the Wallabies. Go the Wallabies, says Save Siru. In there as well. Thrown to the front. To the hands of Tom Hooper, who is on debut for this contest. Back into the pocket to Nick White. Some decent distance on that kick down towards the 22. And now Kurtley Arnsur gives it off to, once again, Willie LaRue. Another decent clearing kick. And every kick so far has gone down towards their halfway line from the Springboks. So they aren't really allowing the Wallabies to get inside of their 22, which is important early on because we've already seen Marika Koromberi have that big run down that left wing side when he was tackled. If there's any more space opening up, they'll certainly try and make the most of it. Dave Parecki now throws this ball in, stolen by Jean Klein, but it's picked up now by Alan Alatoa. So the ball is back for the Wallabies, finds his offload away to Nick White. Wade Cooper, skip pass out to Len Ikatau, short ball to Tom Wright, now gets it on the outside to Marika Koromberi, driving towards the try line, breaks through Andre Esterhuizen's tackle, and it's the try for the Wallabies, the first one of the contest in the only 8th minute of the contest. Marika Koromberi, I said he was dangerous, and that is why the Springboks cannot allow the the Australians into their 22, because that just seemed a little bit too open. Who was caught off their wing? Cannon Moody, he was a little bit more lured in. Tom Wright then had Willie LaRue. Decent last-ditch effort from Andre Estes, and to be fair, I wouldn't really call that a hugely missed tackle. He got the last-ditch ankle tap, but Marika just too strong in the legs. Power towards the line, and Australia now leading 5-0 up against the Springboks. That's the kind of start to the game that they were certainly after. Looks like Reece Hodge. Is that Reece? I think it is. The Springboks have won all 7 test matches against Australia at Loftus Versfeld since 1963 is the stat that they have just shown. First blow to Australia try, and Eddie is happy, says Inspector Hussail. Research. They've got Quade Cooper for the first kick of the match, but I can tell you right now that is not Quade Cooper unless he has completely changed his look. It will be Reece Hodge instead. Aussie didn't come here to F around, says Scrumless. And you're sleeping on this Aussie side, folks, says Daddy Fat Sacks. Yeah, great start to the match for them, though. That is for sure. And that kick, has it gone over? No. He has missed it away to the side, so it is going to be 5-0 now. Like this. We'll go there. There we go. Gareth is the first troll / mod. This is a YouTube first for me. Well done, man. Says, wait, what? And also, Australia have a hot team right now. And hey, all you bums, greetings from Brisbane, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. And what a start for Australia. Exactly right. I said in my preview that I felt they were going to start this match quick, and that is exactly what they have done so far. Who missed that kick? It was Reece Hodge. Even though they had Quade Cooper's name up, that is going to be called as a rolling maul. So now Australia have to try and find a way out of that, and they have not been able to do so. The Springboks win themselves the scrum about 25 metres out from the line. Lola here would have never, says Daddy Fat Sacks. Are you talking about Noah Lolesio maybe? Or you're thinking Quade as well? But Gene Klein, I think he was, or Klein, sorry, he was actually the one who got over. Got the arm underneath it and wasn't letting it go. Try number 5 for Aussie. Says Moss, or you're saying Will Skelton's going to get himself over the try line. It would be impressive, as, I mean, he's the player who I compare to the most with the young French number 5, Tuolangi, in terms of just that extra size. They've got a 20 kg advantage in the locking duo compared to the South Africans, and that is because of Will Skelton being there. It's from a kick. Should be Aussie scrum, says Factor Fable. Oh. To be fair, you might be onto something there. Unless if they changed that rule or not. And who scored it was Marika Corumberry, getting himself the first try of this contest. Now, Kobus Ranach goes off to Peter Steftotoy, who bumped over the top of Michael Hooper. Mako van Staren, only 10 metres out from the line now. The Springboks looking hot on attack. Peter Steftotoy looked for the offload. Does go loose, and now Villy LaRue tackled. Now Tom Hooper almost getting over the ball. Still on the side of the box. Stephen Kitsoff, the man who wasn't really expecting to be playing in this game. Now inside ball to Klein. Was he hit high by his opposite number, Nick Frost? The crowd are asking for it, but the referee says play on. Mani Libok now. Tackled by Dave Parecki. Reinach looks to the left. After Mako van Staren, they have now got the advantage for offside here, the Springboks. So they will try and make the most of this chance. Marvin Ori, tackled by Tom Hooper. Now Reinach looked to the left, instead decides to shift it to the right. Villy LaRue already touching the ball maybe 10 times throughout this matchup. Now Andre Esterhuizen gives it on the outside to Cannon Moody. Reece Hodge makes that tackle, and that will be going back for the penalty in favour of the South Africans. Australia don't have the mongrel required to play rugby, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. Oh, okay, Villy LaRue asking for a yellow card for Marika Corumberry for his shoulder on the ground. I would say that they might not give that as a penalty. I'm basing it off what I'm hearing from the crowd. Normally, if it's a penalty, the crowd lose it, but only a few of the South African supporters were booing in that case. So they are going to go with the penalty in the middle of the field instead. And Klein already showed he should start next to Etzebeth against New Zealand, says Dole there. And let's go Wallabies. Hi, Hamish, says David the Moore. But it was Michael Hooper, in fact, who did find himself slightly offside in that one. Stop milking penalties, says Daddy Fat Sacks. I mean, Michael Hooper was offside by about 2 metres or so. So it's probably a fair enough one. Mani Libok, 0 from 1 so far for the kicking tee, but that is mainly because that first kick that he had to go for was miles out. It was 55 metres. No, they did decide to back him. He had the accuracy. He just didn't quite have the distance required that he would have liked. And you mean here comes a penalty kick, says Daddy Fat Sacks. And I was like, hey, howdy, hey, brothers, says Grumlass, and 5 points to 3, says Patrick. Here's the Schumann. And this one's going over, and it should be a relatively easy kick for Mani Libok, although no kick is easy in a game of international rugby. Now 23 metres out, not much angle, pretty much straight out in front. I told Rassi to put Mornay Stain, but Rassi don't listen. That's because he's saving him for the next British and Irish Lions tour. Because it's pretty much a guarantee that Mornay Stain has to play in every British and Irish Lions tour till like the year 3000. Andre at centre, let's see. His defence always rock hard, says Dull. Also, if these guys have been playing most of their lives, why do you need refs? Money, I would say, is the big thing, because, you know, pretty much the referees have to try and keep it so that it's relatively fair slate, because or else then, you know, if you didn't have referees and you just pretty much play free-for-all rugby, it's like a schoolboy game of rugby. Normally ends up in a punch-up. Now Vililaru taking it nicely, goes across to Lucanio arm now. Great to see him back, I was going to say, but he just slipped over. I think his boots kind of dug in. And I was worried because I look at all that strapping on his knee. Luckily, he is all right. I want to see him at this next World Cup. And whether the Roo is a whinger, it's usually very unlike a Bok to whinge. They're usually tough buggers. They just get on with it, says Kernowick. Now, Marvin Ori. Moving up to 45 metres out from the Bok line. Kobus Ranach going back across the money. Lebok, Vililaru, ball on the outside to Lucanio arm. Now Andre stays in quick hands to Mako van Staden, who's already started this match extremely well, getting himself the early turnover. James Slipper trying to get the turnover there. Oh, space on the outside for Cannon Moody. He's one-on-one with Tom Wright. No, dragged down and a great tackle. Now Marika Kurumbidi almost get him the turnover. Rana goes off the kits off. Tackled by Nick Frost, but the Wallabies, they find themselves once again on the back foot. Bongiel Manambi gives it off to Mani Lebok. They say it's gone backwards, so the Springboks make the most of it. Curtly Arunsa is going to have the easy run in. Did it go backwards? I believe it was close to, it was either close to backwards or close to forwards. One of the two, but that is going to be the try now for Curtly Arunsa. 7 tries, in fact, 8 tries in his first 7 games of international level. Absolutely phenomenal from him. We will quickly put his name in the try scorers category. Arunsa scoring in the 15th, or back, we'll give him the 16th minute try being scored. And also for the Wallabies, we did see the early try from Kurabeti. That was in the 8th minute. We will go like that, and boom. We now got the try scorers down the bottom as well. And yep, the bar is open. Says the snooze. That was all over the place. Says Daddy Fatsax. Yeah, seemed very, I mean, the Mani Libok drop ball actually then opened up the little bit of scrambling from the Australians. And also we have got Box have this in the bag. Says Jason Hamilton. And who scored the Aussie try? Says Xavier was Marika Kurumbiti out on that left side. Michael Hooper's son tackling is bad. Says Jobo. Well, he didn't quite get the chance to get out to Cannon Moody, did he, with that little bit of extra pace that Moody does possess, and Marika Kurumbiti scored it, says Daddy Pat Saxon. Yes, my brew, says RJJ. 16 minutes into this contest now, Mani Lebok with the chance to make the score 10 points to 5 in favour of the Springboks. And he has managed to get it over 10 points to 5 now. A quick start to this game. We've already seen 15 points scored throughout the first 16 minutes of the contest. What was my score prediction? I said 27 points to 18 in favour of the Springboks. The thing is, they're going to have to stop scoring so many tries in a short amount of time if that's going to be correct, because we're just getting a little bit too close with the speed that we're going at the moment. Nick White now kicks off high, taken by Peter Steftatoy on the Springbok 22. Now the ball has been called as a maul, being told to use it once. Kobus Ranak just allowing it to make those couple extra meters though before he decides to grab it. And your mind's off now, get out of it, says Ben O'Keefe. Now Ranak, they decide to have a run. Here comes Mani Lebok. He's got Cannon Moody on his outside. He's looking for the pass option. Quade Cooper's come flying in like a pocket rocket, but he's messed it up and he dropped the ball, but so did Mani Lebok. For the fly halves playing with butter before this contest, but Michael Hooper, I think it actually was, who put the kick downfield, and it's gone into touch. Mani Lebok had an acre of space. Reinach, he's going to be that kind of halfback who will run the ball if the opportunity arises. Yeah, Marika Kurumbiti makes the tackle, and then that ball comes free from Mani Lebok. I'm telling you, Hamish, bro, that number 6 Hooper is getting caught out. Is defending is shocking. Will you be doing commentary of the All Blacks game later? We certainly will be. We are doing that game starting at 6:30 a.m. New Zealand time. So we've got 40 minutes of build-up where we look through all of the previous stats for the two teams. And I'll heap of other info that is about how not straight was that from Bongi on Benumbi. I'd say good 3 meters to the Springboks side. Keith has now gone back for the scrum. Unfortunately, Peter Steftatoi, when you jump into the middle and that ball is on your outside, you know that it is a little bit more wonky. And Scrumley says, Obi, by luck of an escape like our first try, says the snooze. I want to put this out there now. There's so much talk about this being a Bok team or Bok B team. It is not. It is a team that a lot of us want to see. And any B team talk is BS. Sorry, fellow Saffers, says Gareth there. I mean, I agree. I feel like, yes, they're missing a few of the big names, but this is a South African side that have more than enough capabilities of winning contests. And, you look at some of those guys out there on the field, them, if they get called a B team, like they're going to be gutted with that statement because we know how much passion the Boks play with and we know how much they back themselves to do well in each and every game. It is going to be a free kick now to the Australians. That are for Frans Malharba. Giving his legs go out. Everyone knows it's a B team, says Inspector. Well, I mean, that's the thing. If you have like 3 injuries, is that going to then mean that your World Cup team is a B team? Malcolm Mark's not playing in a game. Eben Etzebeth not playing in a game if they're both injured. There's still more than enough capability out there on the field for the Springbok. And like I said, I feel like they'd be insulted that you'd say they're the B team. They're the A team that's won a Rugby World Cup. But Nick White now feeding that ball in. Now kicking in behind. Looking for that territory game. And it rolls out about 5 meters out from the Springboks line. So going pretty nicely. I'm okay. I just want to watch Sound of Freedom, so I'm a little down. Says Obi, and half those players won't be at the World Cup. Says Inspector, but that is why they have these games for the Rugby Championship, for the warm-up games. This is why Rassi Erasmus has gone with the split side, because he wants to see who his players are that are going to fly and soar high and who are the players who aren't quite going to be able to get the job done. But to be honest, I don't see many of these players as guys that can't make the Rugby World Cup squad. Because, Van Staden, he's been sensational in the early stages of this match. Dwayne Vermeulen just having a crash at the line. 10 metres out. Kobus Ranach now going back to Manny Leibok, who shanked that one badly. The one has gone almost straight sideways from Manny Leibok. And it is now going to be a Wallabies line out from about, I'd say, 15 metres out from the line. Bongi on Benumbi, stop looking at the ref, please. There's something I called him out on throughout the URCCs, and every time that anything happens, he's like Finlay Christie. There's always one who just looks at the ref the whole game rather than looking at what's actually happening. That's going to be nicely taken by Tom Hooper. Michael Hooper now going back across to Nick White. Quade Cooper now to Len Ikitau in the midfield. One more ball to Tom Wright, who broke through one tackle, but look, Hanuam is able to make the second on. He stays and tackles Quade Cooper. Now off to the right-hand side. Tom Hooper. Dragged down low by, I believe it was Frans Malharba. Trying to roll out of that breakdown, wasn't quite able to. Now Will Skelton. We're already 22 minutes through this contest. And France will win the World Cup, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. Nice ball on the outside to Suliasi Vunivalu. And that man has come off a very good season for the Reds, scoring 9 tries. Oh, Alanara Toa did end up knocking that ball on. Unfortunately, it was a bounce pass, and the prop not quite able to regather. Now, Manny Leibok, massive kick downfield from the Springbok number 10. And it's going to make the Wallabies have to try and get out of their own half now. Will Big Willie make 60 minutes is the question, says Gareth. It will probably depend a little bit on what they want to do with Damian Valimza, whether or not they want to bring him on as the 10 option or the 15 option, because there's a chance, I think, if Manny Leibok is playing well, which I think he's already had a pretty decent starting 23 minutes, I think if he's playing well, they may even take him off near half-time and then save him for the All Blacks game next week. Michael Hooper, good low tackle made on him by Bongi Umbanambi and also Frans Malharba. That is a lot of man tackling you right there. And speaking of a lot of man, here's Will Skelton having another carry now for the Wallabies. Looks like Nick White rolling it back now for the box kick. Seen quite a few of them in the early stages of this contest. Not many going to ground, though. Nicely taken by Cannon Moody. Tried to think about the offload. Now Michael Hooper all over him. Gets the turnover for a side, although I think the Springboks trying to take that one back. And I see Peter Steph-Toy. Oh, he had his hands on the ball, but he is going to get pinged for not rolling away. The previous man who was there. The ref says Alta. And also let me clear up what I'm saying. If we lose, don't make excuses, says Gareth there. I will say nothing because I'm from New Zealand and I feel like if I say anything about it, I get in trouble. But Cannon Moody almost managed to get that offload away. Michael Hooper over the ball. Seen them given as penalties before to the other side, but Hooper does win it for the Wallabies. I think from here they will look at that 3 points as a viable option. 63% possession at the moment for the Springboks. So they've had a little bit more of the ball. I'd say that first 10 minutes, Australia, though, did have that ball advantage. And once again, it's going to be Reece Hodge. Sitting 0 from 1. It is 46 metres out, though. Taking the 3, they certainly are. Skelton plays almost 80 every game. Starts in France. Says Xavier. Yeah, there's a chance that we see 2 top 14 locks on the field. For the Australians, we hear the Bowen, Reece Hodge. That's going to be wide again. So that is now a total of 5 points that the Australians have left out there on the park, which would actually make the score 10-all had those kicks been going over. And Skelton needs to run onto the ball, says Daddy Fat Six. South Africa says Melvin. And also we have got their standing start runs are doing nothing for the team, says Daddy Fat Six. Looks like it is now going to be a South African 22 dropout. Travis Reinach. Giving the ball off to Mani Lebok. Anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. We have got plenty more action coming in the near future and early days in this game, but Australia need to get going. Springboks are resting some top players in this game, bizarrely, and are still controlling the game for me, says Jack. I mean, I wouldn't say they're resting them in a bizarre fashion. They do know that they've got a quick turnaround up against the Kiwis next week. So Rassie Erasmus, that's a big run from Marika Korombedi to try and cut down the Springbok time inside of their own 22. Willie Leroux once again gets the kick away. And now Australia attacking from about 30 or so metres out, mate. How do you miss that, says Daddy Fat Six. And our 10s have not seen a full crowd in a while, says the Snooze. And that's the thing. The last time that Australia even played in South Africa, it's been quite some time. They didn't play last year in the Rugby Championship. Both of the games taking place in Australia. Dave Parecki now throwing that one in, almost stolen by Jean Klein again. Jean Klein, I should say, sorry. Reece Hodge with the big up and under torpedo kick. Cannon Moody knocks the ball on. Now advantage. Nick White runs onto it, puts the grubber in behind, but that means that the advantage is over. Kermith Rana chasing after it. Forces it dead, and it will be the goal line dropout. That is an interesting choice from Nick White. Yes, there was space in behind, but with the advantage surely going out to the left-hand side, could have given you more opportunity, and it's important to win every game in this win, or game to win this competition. It's only 3 games. They can't afford to lose. I'm surprised. Etzebeth and Mapimpi are not playing very risky, but working so fast, says Jack Lewis. And Etzebeth, he has just come back from that injury as well, so I think they want to slowly, they want to ease him into it. I assume he's going to start up against the All Blacks, but I wouldn't be surprised if instead they decide to have him come off the bench just to, slowly bring him back in. You don't want to risk an injury of a big man like that just before a World Cup, because like you said, he's a crucial player. Michael Hooper now tackled by Mako van Staren. Nick White, Tom Wright now trying to get the kick in behind. Nick White drops the ball. There's a lot of White and Wright at the moment for the Aussies. The knock-on advantage. I believe there was just a little knock-on advantage for half a second, and now the scrum feed for the South Africans again, all smoke and mirrors. You see the real team of the Rugby World Cup, says Floyd King, and kick for Vuni Valu, says Daddy Fat Six. And also, hello, daughter, says it was Gareth. They're talking about Nick White's mustache. Certainly more impressive than mine. I think I'm going to shave mine soon, though. Not sure when. I feel like it's something that I should do in the near future. Perhaps we need to have it as a forfeit. That's normally what ends up happening. And hey, Jasmine, hope you're doing well, says Scrum Lass. To Novmum. Nice early morning start for us Kiwis for this contest. I am going to be covering that game between the Rugby Championship sides of the All Blacks and the Pumas for the next one. That stash on Nick White is making it unbalanced. A reason science, bro, says Cited Canvas. Mine doesn't quite grow as thick as Nick White's though, but it's saying that I think I've got more, well, sometimes people just call it bum fluff here in New Zealand, but you haven't got much of a beard, just some parts growing out randomly. No cards yet, that is true. I've got through the first 27 minutes of this fixture without a single card being awarded. Bokken mostly defensive these games, worrying, says Hangarat. And Go Australia says meme, although they have at about 65% possession at the moment for the Springboks. So even though they are defending quite a bit, they are still getting a bit of time on attack alongside it. Go the Box says pities. And is it true the AB's game isn't on TV back home? Is that New Zealand? It is here in New Zealand. It is going to be on, I assume. I hope so. Anyway, I think we are covering it on the channel. So, yeah, I think it is on in New Zealand. That's gone down in the front rows. I think that was Alan Alatoa having a bit of a trouble there with Stephen Kitsoff. Best way of describing that one. Just went straight down, unfortunately for him. And I hope it gets cooler for you, says Scrumless, for the random hot flushes. And well, Ben O'Keefe is officiating, says Wonga. And Go Bok, are you a fan for the Springboks? And I like your video and I subscribe, says Only Aldo. Hugely appreciated, mate. I'm a big fan of what the Springboks side can do, and I'm a big fan of the fact that, you know, this Rugby World Cup, I'm excited to see what that's gone down again. Once again, the description, straight down for him in that front row. Stephen Kitsoff, the spicy plum, as his nickname. Doing decently, but nice step from Cannon Moody. Now moving up to the halfway line, Kobus Ranach. Going across to Marvin Ori, Mani Lebok. Off to Andre Esterhuizen, breaks through one tackle. And now finding the space, tries to go for the kick and behind it. Sits back up for Esterhuizen. Finds the offload to Peter Stefter Toy. He had Ranach on his inside, but he had no ice to pass it. Will Skelton goes over the middle with a breakdown with his 2-meter long arms and gets the turnover for the Wallabies. Now, Nick White inside of the 22. Now, going to have to get this one back into the pocket. I think that's one of the first times we've seen the Australians kicking from the pocket here in this matchup. As South Africa won World Cup in rugby, they certainly have. They have won multiple times in the past. And UAE vs Pakistan is also live at the moment. UAE 52 for 5. Who's your favourite rugby player? Ooh. I have a few. I think because I cover so many different competitions from around the world, it makes it very hard to just pick one favourite. But I don't know. I really like Dion Forey, the attitude that man has. Nice run on the outside for Kurt Learinsa. And he'll get himself another try in this matchup. That is his second coming in the 29th. The Springboks, they're looking for that bonus point. I've just got that little bit of a feeling in this competition you need 3 or more than your opposition. Solid sets, there's the snooze. And the box lineouts are starting to get better now, says Cited, an all-time favourite. So many to choose from, isn't there? I remember like old school guys. I'm just, there's so many names, you know, when like there's a lottery draw, how they have the thing winding up and there's just a whole heap of names or a whole heap of balls. This has all the players' faces on it. Did I just say that I don't know what I said. I think I said I've got my balls on the players' faces, but that's not the case. But 30 minutes in, 15 points to 5. Good try for the Springboks once again. All time, I really enjoyed watching. I used to love watching someone like a Conrad Smith at number 13 for the Kiwis. For the Boks, they've had some brilliant players over the years. Ebenezebev's got to be up there just with the fact that he just doesn't give up and will just give you 110% every single time. A Volt could have a tough one tonight, says Jack Cooney. And Australia poor, getting smashed by the Boks B team. Lol, says Inspector there. I didn't realise Jermaine Ainsley played for the Wallabies. Yeah, a little while ago. And dude, you need to trim that fluff, says Hangarat. Yeah, I do. I also need a haircut, but they weren't taking bookings for like 3 weeks. Black Ferns would be a better watch, says Daddy Fat Sacks. Well, their game, I think they've recently played up against the Canadians. You could watch the replay of that if you like. New Zealand vs Argentina Prime, 2 p.m. says Floyd Kingy. Jerry Collins, he was one that came to mind as well as just a real hard man of rugby. Thanks for the commentary, my friend. Sitting 70 kilometres from Loftus. Enjoying your commentary, says Josh. Thank you very much, mate. You usually appreciate it. Now 17 points to 5 down. The Australians find themselves. Tom Hooper has actually gone off the field already. That is for Pete Samu. So I'm not sure whether that's tactical or whether there might be an injury involved, but not exactly the debut that Tom Hooper would have been after. And to be honest, with making that change after 30 minutes, perhaps that's Eddie Jones saying, okay, I got that one wrong. We'll cross him off the list. Showing my age now, my favourite centre of all time, the maestro of the midfield, Danny Herber. Have I said that correctly? Hopefully. And Conrad Smith's probably the greatest rugby player of all time, not in a position. It's basically a callus of rugby that's kicked into touch by the Springboks again, down towards halfway. Dude, I need a rodent trap. Put Kit Kat in it. Says Blues Nate. And really, where is the sport for the great number 7AB? Says Hanger out. I mean, Richie McCaw always gets the high praise as well, of course. Oh, Pete Samu almost ended up hurting himself, only being on the field for a few seconds. Would have been a record time to get an injury. We saw in the game earlier on between the Japan XV and the New Zealand XV, saw a player have a bleeding nose after 2 minutes in that match, but that was because he headbutted the ground, and the ground doesn't normally give way for no one. Unless there's like a hole underneath and then it slowly, like a sinkhole. That's a rare occasion. Kobus Reinach now with the ball 25 metres out from the Springboks line off to the left. Here comes Mani Lebok looking for the pass on the outside. Willie LaRue almost going through. But he's been tackled well. Met Jerry Collins, nice guy down to earth as. And then he will wish he stayed with England, says Inspector. I don't think he really had a choice in the matter. Wasn't he sacked? We also got to remember, though, this is Eddie Jones's first game coaching the Wallabies. So there's going to be a little bit of a developmental period. It's just they're very close to the World Cup, so whether or not they can have that happen, it's like Borthwick for England. I think a few people expected him to come straight in and then change it completely for them. Too afraid to get happy. This Box team have a way to break your heart, says Hensel. And we will box you, says Chalabi, and Eddie was sacked, says Arts Robinson. And Cotton Betty jumps to the ball and 2 bot players fall down, says Daddy Fat Sacks. And Mialamu and Umanga. Mani Lebok, another penalty won by the Springboks, so they will be kicking this one down towards the touchline. It's going to have a nice bit of angle on it. We're into about 42 metres out from Australia's line. South Africa's A team has about 30 players, says Floyd. And who is your favourite rugby team? Your opinion, minus France and the Springboks, says only Aldo. I mean, I'm from New Zealand, so it should be the ABs, of course. But as you guys know, throughout the time that we've had this YouTube channel, we've been completely impartial when it comes to rugby matches. Bongi Manambi gets it straight to Peter Stiftatoy. Mani Lebok, nice flat pass off to Dwayne Vermeulen. Now, Lebok, skip pass out to Cannon Moody, who's in a foot race with Marika Korombedi, who went a little bit too high. So they might consider the advantage. Kibith Reinach now going off to Stephen Kitsoff. The Springbok side, when they are on attack, they are looking extremely physical. Peter Stiftatoy. A bit of a counter-ruck there from Will Skelton. Kibith Reinach, he's going to back himself through that gap, and he does. I could see it opening up from a mile away. Parting like the Red Sea was the Aussie defence. Now Klein, 5 metres out from the line. No hands is the call from the ref by Marika Korombedi. Little bit of a counter-ruck there, and the ball is out. James Slipper puts the kick downfield. Manages to relieve some of the pressure for the Australians again. 418 watching, 80 likes. There's scrum less. Anyone who hasn't already, be sure to leave a like on this live stream. We are closing in on that 100. Also, if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I see that my Wi-Fi throughout pretty much this whole live stream has been a bit dodgy, so I do apologize for that if it is glitching a little bit. We'll have to make sure that we reset that modem before we get on to the next match between New Zealand and Argentina. Nice work, Australia, says Daddy Fat Sacks. And where did he learn that pass, says the snooze. Ongi Manambi thrown in now. Jean Klein, almost breaking through was Andre Esterhazen with that crash ball tactic. Peter Stiftatoy driven backwards. Finds the offload, though, from his back on the ground to Mani Lebok. Lukanyuam now with a nice bend. Reese Hodge takes him down. Reinach goes across to Marvin Ori again. Now Reinach getting into that breakdown extremely efficiently. Who are the try scorers? We've seen Marika Korombedi score 1. We've seen Kutli Arinsa score 2 for the South Africans, and they are all of the try scorers thus far. The left now. Bongyum Manambi to Lebok. Goes to Villilaroo with the cross kick, gone a little bit over the top, and that is the second time he has kicked the ball out on the full so far throughout this contest. You see a few nervous Springbok supporters in attendance. Oh, Villilaroo, he's having a little bit of a tantrum. What's happened there? I think he was yelling at Marnie Lebok saying, what do you want me to do with that one? Here's an idea, Villy. Pass rather than kick. That's an idea. The most mentally tough player, Wayne Buck Shelford, had his ball bag torn open and carried on playing hard, bugger, says Kernowick. And Fakatava played looking very good for Japan. He did well at lock. As that 9 tries and 8 matches for Arinsa, 8 and 7 for him at the moment. So he's doing pretty well at the start of his Springbok career. Well, sorry, no, it is 9. Oh, and he's just taken another kick. Why was I on a timeout, says Hanger Rat? I have not pressed any buttons. My hands have been down on my lap. So I don't know. Hands on the ground. Second player, so that's going to be Pete Samu, now penalised, and Rice says Daddy Fat Sacks. And also try scores and lineups are all on the screen crawl friends. Just friendly FYI, and Vunivalu says Daddy Fat Sacks. There as well, but 2 minutes remaining in this first half. South Africa just haven't quite been able to get that rolling maul going as of yet in this game, which is surprising because that's normally one of the tactics that they use quite often. And actually, since 2022, they have had the most tries scored out of any side off a rolling maul, or at least starting off a rolling maul. And I believe that's a whole about 20 tries more than the Australians have scored in that exact same format. I wouldn't be surprised if they start getting this one rolling forward just that little bit here. Try and put that pressure on the Aussies. Here we go. First rolling maul is going to keep on creeping forward now for the Springboks. That is the most meters made off one through the legs for Bongi Umbanambi. A little bit of skill shown there because Will Skelton was going to be right over the top of it. Andre Esterhuizen once again breaking another tackle. Mani Lebok drops the ball, but it goes backward. Oh, big bump off there from Villilaroo. Ended up knocking the ball on the ground, but I believe the referee missed it. Unless it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, but I believe there was a little knock on there. Springboks now going for the chip in behind. Sits up for Kurtley Arinsa. Looked for the pass. It was forward. The referee says advantage. Now Suliasi Vunivalu not held. So gets up again. That's a knock on from Nick White, and they will go back for the original one. And Just used to be on crutches after every game against the All Blacks. Guess that causes illness, says Xavier. And South Africa needs one more try before halftime, says Rudy. And a well done this far, South Africa, says Lorraine. Hopefully I've said that correctly. Sorry if I mispronounced it. My honest opinion, Danny Herber was the best centre for 13. And Willie has always been one to throw a tantrum, says Xavier. There as well. But 12 points difference at the moment. The Springboks, they'll be more than happy with how they sit in this contest, seeing as they were the first side to concede a try. That is the only try that they've conceded as of yet. Oz got to have a better 9 than White. He drops the ball every time he touches it, says Gareth. And also love Willie. Or Villy, I should have said, because the rest said it sounds like something else for me, doesn't it? And even help the Aussies with altitude in the second half. It's horrible, says Sean and Hanging Rat. Are we with you? Or with you on Dunny? A bloody wonderful centre, my favourite. He could do it at all at world-class level. It's gone down again on this far side. Alan Alatoa, he can't get his footing up against Stephen Kitsoff, and I'm not sure whether or not it's just because of that pure scrum power that Kitsoff possesses, or whether it's just because the feet keep on slightly slipping out and think Tate is better than White, says Xavier. Yeah, I feel like he's got a decent argument for being up there as a good option. You do love Willie Alta, says RJJ. And I guess they have been lucky for 3 World Cups now, says Hanger Rat. Nick White about to feed the ball in. 41 minutes through. That's a massive push there, the Wallabies. Suliasi Vunivalu has it in his hands. I thought for a second the Wallabies were going to look to put that ball into touch, but it looks like they want to continue playing for just that little bit longer. And the physical nature, that's going to be a penalty advantage for the for the Australians, due to a player not being able to get out of the breakdown. Now Quade Cooper goes for the little chip in behind. Awkward bounce, sits up now for Michael Hooper. Passes on the outside. What's happened there? Okay. That makes more sense. Ben O'Keefe said that there was a player in front of the kicker, so that's why they've gone back. I was about to say that was almost a runaway chance for the Australians. Now they have gone back for the penalty. What's Quade Cooper deciding here? He's saying wait up. Who's he telling to wait up? Are they going to go for the tap? No. They've gone for the kick from 65 out on the angle. Research hasn't been banging them from 40. This, yeah, the Wallabies have now afterwards have gone, do we want to go for the corner? And Ben O'Keefe said, no, you've said you wanted to kick it. Did the singer Little Richard actually ever realise that Ian was actually probably not, you know? I remember James Small hacking John Alomu down man on man, but James Small was ballistic. I hope the Boks come out second half with some fire, says Hanger Rat. But this is a strange decision from the Australians. From 43 metres out. Oh, sorry, 66 metres out. I don't know where I read 43. Maurice Hodge strikes it. It's certainly got the distance, or doesn't know it, falls short. South Africa kick that ball into touch. And that's going to make the score 17 points to 5. So that's going to give no confidence to Reece Hodge. He's currently sitting 0 from 3 today. I don't know why you'd give him a kick from 66 metres out if he hasn't been kicking them from closer. I think Quade Cooper and Len Ikitau are just asking that same question to each other as they run off the field. They're like, why do we do that? And Jason Moore was nothing. Ollie and the rest of them, what did was hanging on Lomu's collar. And Small better than Lomu, says Floyd King. And thoughts on the first half, Hammy? I thought Australia started well, which I did predict for myself. That was one thing that I was proud of. I was like, yep, Australia going to start well. And they did for the first 10 minutes. Then from there, South Africa started finding their stride. And Kurtley Arinsa getting 2 tries has certainly helped them towards this nice 17 points to 5 up. But yeah, I feel like there were a few things that they certainly could have done better in that first half. Australia, South Africa, the same. I feel like they'll still want to improve on it. Looking at some of the match stats for this one so far, we'll see exactly how it is matching up. Thank you for the live commentary, boss, says Stefan. No worries at all. Thank you very much for being here. Anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. We are going to be back for the next game taking place between the All Blacks and Argentina. So be sure to stick around for that as well. Meters carried so far from the South Africans, 306. Compared to the 170 for the Australians. Now, these are unofficial stats, so they could be a little bit wrong, but they are in the rough estimate of whereabouts they are. Maxie said, how's it going, brother? Welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing very well. Hope you are excited for that AB's game taking on Argentina just a little bit later on. But yeah, hope you are keeping well. Hope everything's going well for you at the moment in Spain. Absolutely, James. Small 100% or 100 better than Lomu. Small, James, but poison comes in small bottles. Lomu was superhuman. Lomu was sick. Was never near perfect health. And one-sided game so far. Boks playing well. Says Rugby Itch. Yeah, they've been taking their chances when they have arose. And I feel like that is one of their keys for the second half as well. If Australia do make a mistake, you've got to capitalise. And, I mean, the Springboks are a side that we certainly know have got that counter-attacking ability. They've beaten 12 defenders so far throughout the first half. 9 for the Australians, clean breaks 7 for the South Africans and 2 for Australia. AB's looking better than the Boks at the moment, I would humbly say, says Stefan. Although I'd like to think that of those Springbok players who are going to be taking on New Zealand next week, we're also going to get to see a few more of the guys from this game make their way in. So I guess, here is a question for you lovely ladies and gentlemen. You can pick 5 Springboks who can play next week up against the All Blacks, who you think should anyway. Not guaranteeing that they will. 5 Springboks in this game that you think have proven themselves as a good shot of playing next week. For me, Mani Libok, he's been very good at number 10. Cope Reinach, I think, is actually probably got to get that honourable mention too. Kurtley Arinsa, I don't know if they'll end up playing him because they've got Makazole Mapimpi. That's the only thing that might end up impacting him. But yeah, that 19 combo, I think, is a very decent one. Of the forwards, Peter Toy, I believe he would probably get the nod. And then I'd probably go with, well, I mean, Klein has been going very well at number 4. And then also probably Kitsoff, I would say. And Kitsoff, Arinsa, Peter Toy, Bongi and And there says Albert. So you've gone with a lot of experience out of those boys. And then the youngster, Arinsa, the try scoring machine, just runs over the try line for fun. ABs are having a last show. Veterans main team and quite a few Kamikaze ABs wannabes. Says Stefan and Peter Toy, Reinach, Kurtley, Bongi and Kitsoff. Australia front 3 are about to crumble, says Craig. The thing is, are they about to or have they already? Because the scrums have been hugely under pressure, 6 balls in the cricket. And then off again, lol, says Joseph. That's not ideal. Luckily, I know that people wanted us to cover that first session, but all we would have had to do was talk about the rain, unfortunately, for the Ashes so far. And Cullen destroyed the box, as there's even footage of Small trying to slide tackle on Cullen. Says Xavier and Finley Christie munched on twisties. Where'd the ball? Says Blues name. Wallabies slide defense is terrible. They're not doing outside and rush D, which is surprising. If Wallabies use that D against the ABs, they'll get murdered. Box looks good. And yes, Hamish, bit of Ashes during the break. Says Gareth and Dolan Pavalier and Mark Talia. Says Blues nay. And also we have got their skinny little Pakeha fella. I don't know whether or not that's to me or whether that's to someone else. Maybe Christian Cullen. Was it Christian Cullen, maybe? No, but got that right, says Gareth. Now, what's happening with Faf de Klerk? I believe he is available. They are just saving him for the New Zealand game. And I'm interested to see how much the tactics change with having him as the number 9 option rather than Kobus Reinach, because we've already seen Reinach pierce the gap a couple of times. Around the side of the breakdown, there was even a gap that was just slowly opening up and he went straight through it. It's a little bit like a sniper, and I feel that that is actually something that the Springboks, if they have Lebok as number 10, could be a very good combination. Lebok, Reinach, Peter Toy and Kitsoff. Says Sean there for the 5 that she would like to see next week. The question with Lukanyuam, I think, is are they going to go with him at number 13, or are they going to go with the midfield combination of Damien Dialende and Jesse Creel? Now, I'm not saying that's what I would want to see. I'm just wondering, is that who they will go with, just so that they've had all of their midfielders having a little bit of a crack, and then perhaps up against Argentina, they go with the best combination. What's your prediction on the All Blacks versus Pumas today, boss? Says Stefan. For me, I predicted that the All Blacks would win it by about 4, I think I said about 26 points to 22. I'd like to think that it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I just don't know whether or not the ABs are going to be able to run away with it like some people think. I think Argentina are a phenomenal side, and they're playing at home, which could be massively beneficial for them. Would you try to take Lomu out head-on? James Small did. He may not be the best winger of all time, but James was definitely one of the most fearless, in my opinion. Says Kerno Weck. I mean, the good news about trying to tackle one of those big men head-on is your hope is that even if you don't tackle them, they'll trip over you. That used to be the tactic back when I was playing in the lower grades of rugby. It was pretty much, right, if you're going to end up missing a tackle, you might as well be lying in front of them so that they have to try and step over you and maybe get caught on you on the way past. Like if they accidentally kicked you in the head, but they fell over, that was counted as a win. Probably lucky I didn't play rugby for too long, eh? And Grant Williams is also a good option at 9 for next week's game, says Hanger out. Can't understand Australia going for the 3 before the break with a tough kick. Yeah, 66 metres out is anything but a give me kick, isn't it? Definitely for a man who's missed 2 easier kicks so far. And bro, ignore me, Harry, keep it going. Says Blues Nate. He was just another giant Islander boy, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. And Argentina always plays the best when their first game is at home, says Rudy. Yeah, I mean, we saw them play pretty decently up against the Aussies last year. Although it was actually the second game up against Argentina, wasn't it? Or up against Australia that they were able to win by a record margin. Remember, 4 English buggers trying to stop Lomu head on. They failed spectacularly, says Kernovik. And also, good morning, humans. How's it going, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie? Says Opal, welcome in, mate. Yeah, nice early morning start for us here in New Zealand and Australia. Currently sitting 4 a.m. here in New Zealand, but the second half just about to get back underway. It's going to be an exciting second half, and if the Boks can continue the way that they just have in that first, I feel like that bonus point might not be a mile off. Who scored? Says Luke. It was 2 tries for Kutli Arinsa and also the 1 try for Marika Koromberi. Tackles made 64 by the Wallabies. 12 tackles missed. So that's probably something that's been hurting them quite a bit. Possession 67% in favour of the South Africans. Tackles missed 9 for South Africa of the 33 tackles made. So they've actually got a worse tackling percentage than Australia. Small was borderline psychopath on the field. Very tough player, says Floyd Kingy. And Boks testing squad depth so far so good, says Dale. Yeah, they'll be happy enough with what they've seen here. I don't think there's too many Springbok players who have been out on the field that have underperformed. In fact, I'm trying to think of a player who's done badly in this game, and there's not really many. Like, at worst, you'd only really say someone like, I don't know, Vermeulen, just because we haven't really seen him. But from what we've seen, he's been good. So I don't think there's been one player for the Springboks who have played badly. Whereas for Australia, when you look through at their lineup, you could probably list about 5 players who haven't quite been able to perform the way that they normally would like to, which is why we actually saw the early sub from the Aussies. And looking at the benches, there's still some pretty good talent of the South African bench to come. You've got RG Snyman going to get himself an opportunity after so many injuries have kept him out of that international kit. Ivan Ruiz, Dion Fourie, I'm looking forward to seeing him in the Springbok kit because I feel that if he can start getting his turnovers like he normally would for the Stormers, if they put him at 6 and he gets 1 or 2 turnovers late in this game, I honestly feel like he is definitely a player you could look at towards that World Cup as a real contender in that loose forward trio. Damien Willemse at 23. Personally, for me, I'm looking at this now as, do you go with Manie Libbok next week as the starting fly half? And if you do, at what stage in this match do you decide to take him off and put Willemse on? Of course, you don't want to end up with 2 injuries. So if Libbok's still good to go, maybe you give him 10 minutes or so in the second half and you say, right, you've done a good debut or a good starting debut. Now you got to face the ABs next week and see how you go. But for the Wallabies, they've got Samu Karevi still yet to make his way out onto the park. Tate McDermott, I think, will be a welcome change for them. Nick White just hasn't quite been getting the momentum flowing in this one so far. How's the weather there by you in Pretoria, mate? At the moment in Pretoria, there's a little bit of wind around, but not too bad overall temperature. For us here, we are sitting 6 degrees Celsius. So it's a bit chillier for us over here. I'm from the Waikato. I'll take any human on this planet. Who has the better bench? I would say the game, the way that it's developed, I would say the Springboks, mainly because they've gone with that 6-2 split. Australia have already used one of their forwards, so the Springboks should be a lot more fresh later on in the game now. Nice weather in Pretoria tonight. The cold front is hitting us tomorrow. Says WALLABIES. What's your take on Yankees cover for the Boks 10? Deserved or not? Says Dal. If he can keep himself out of trouble, Elton Yankees, he's a bit of a... Some people like him, some people don't like him. But, you know, I'd say he's a decent option for them if there are injuries. But I would like to see them try and develop Libbok and also maybe Willemse as their 10s first and then Elton as the backup. Bro, that's hilarious. You used the trip tackle play under a body crunch, blood guts with a little thought-ish, says Warren in there. Yeah, the old trip tackle, eh? We did see Andre Esterhuizen attempted on Marika Koromberi. It didn't actually work, unfortunately, for him. That was the 1 try conceded. But we've seen a few missed tackles from the Australians, like I mentioned, 12 in this one, and brought extras and Kit Kat size, king size Kit Kats. Oh, bloody enjoy a Kit Kat. I think there's none in the house, unfortunately. And also, I think what I'm going to have in between these 2 live streams is chips. What do you think? Or who do you think will be on the wing for both All Blacks and Springboks next weekend? I think for the Springboks, they'll go with Cheslin Colby and Makazole Mapimpi, just because they didn't play in this game. And then alongside that, for the All Blacks, I think they will go with, depending on if Fainā Nuku is fresh, which I think he might be, I think they'll go with Fainā Nuku at number 11. And then at number 14, I would like to think that they'll give maybe Mark Talia if he is fresh, or maybe go with Moni Narua if he does play well in this game. I still don't know whether or not they'll give Sean Stevenson the crack as of yet, which is a bit of a shame. A trip tackle, but during cross country, says RJJ. I remember I did cross country way back in the day. But at the start of the race, one of the girls, she decided she wanted to try and leapfrog over something and fell on her face. And unfortunately, she wasn't really in a state to continue the race at full intensity. So I ended up, me and another fellow, we ended up walking the whole cross country with her, which I feel like now that I think about it, back then I don't think I was hugely fit. So that was probably a smart play on my part for not having to run it. But also, I just wanted to, of course, to make sure that she was all right. That's the only thing that went through your head as a child. Used to be fit as a fiddle, but now I run to the fridge and I'm tired. No Will Jordan against the Box. If he's injured, maybe not. If he is playing, I think he'll play another. Or will they go 14 for him? They might go 14, actually, now that I think about it. I would have had him at 15, though. Hamish, I hope you take multivitamins. Says Gareth. Yeah. I eat a banana for breakfast. That helps, I guess. Potassium in it. Jerry Collins put Carvis in hospital. Says Mr. Papa Giorgio, as either team had dominance in the scrums? Yes. Springboks for sure. We've seen Alamala Toa keep on getting flattened out by Stephen Kitsoff. Did the All Blacks split their teams up as well, like the Box did? Not really. I think the whole side travelled to Argentina, and the whole side is going to be travelling back. Is the ref a bit on the Box side today, boss? Says Stefan, I'd say he's been down the middle for this contest. Like, I don't think there's been too many times that he's had a wrong decision. So yeah, I'd say he's pretty much down the middle for this game, which is good to see because I feel like Ben O'Keefe, like, he's needed a good game after that Super Rugby final. He just needed to get that confidence back because, like, the amount of abuse that he got from that Super Rugby final was terrible. A damn cold for me compared to Muscat Summer, says Joss. So they are just talking about Pete Samu. He has ended up replacing Tom Hooper. Now, ladies and gentlemen, 40 minutes remaining. That was just messed up, says Jimmy Lister. That was just messed up. What was messed up? Something. This whole thing. Oh, the Super Rugby final. Sorry, my brain took a while to kick in. It is currently 4 a.m. So, I had to crank the cogs a little bit more and then it worked out. That travel from Argentina to New Zealand is rough, bro. Says cited. It is, but yeah, they decided they'd send the whole team over, other than the injured players, of course. And what happened to Tom Hooper? They took him off early. I don't think there was an injury involved. They just felt he wasn't really playing too well, so they ditched him. I think, unless there was an injury. We didn't really hear too much about it, but now the second half underway. Mani Libok to kick it off for us. And second half now underway. Nicely taken by Nick White inside of his 22. Down towards the touchline. Decent enough kick. Mock ball carriers get too much time with the ball in hand before the Wallaby D gets up. If the Wallabies get line speed up and shut down the Bok attack, they can get into the game. Otherwise, it's game over. I think the Wallabies, they definitely need to be the first side to score in the second half. If there's another try for the Springboks, that bonus point might not be a mile away. Throw from Bongi on Benumbi does get contested, but it manages to bounce back out on the Springbok side. Andre Esterhuizen goes off to Mako van Staren now. Another good attack and run. Kobus Ranach put in the ball up high. Rika Kormbedi unable to take it cleanly. And now the Wallabies just have to swat it back across. Springboks jump on it, but there was an initial knock on. And now the Wallabies will have themselves the scrum again. I see James Slipper is on and doing well. Thought he had an injury. Says Hangarat. He seems to be relatively good at the moment. I think he got an injury near the end of Super Rugby Pacific, didn't he? Mark Talia will play shocking and Stevenson will take a spot for the Dunedin game. Who looks out under the roof, says Jason. And AB's 14, Jordan 15, Bowden Barrett 11, Talia, says Dow. It'll be interesting. I don't know whether or not they've considered Mark Talia as their number 11 option. I think they've always looked at Whainarnuku and also Caleb Clark. But, I mean, if Whainarnuku is still injured, they will need to find someone to fill in that gap, of course. Now the scrum once again ready to go. And the Wallabies have got the scrum feed. They've been under immense pressure from the Springboks throughout this contest. Now that ball is fed in nicely. Available for Nick White at the back. Quade Cooper looks for the little chip in behind. Looks like it's going to be working out not too badly for him. Now running onto this ball. Kicked in behind from Billy LaRue. Been right in the middle of the action throughout this contest. Quade Cooper, huge amount of pressure on him to get the clear and kick away. And the Springboks have now forced the line out inside of the Aussie 22. Quade and his cheeky kicks. Says sighted. And Caleb Clark will definitely call or get the call next week. Says Hanger at the Aussies looking very sluggish in defence, only reacting to the box. No counter-attack plans. Says Stefan, and Hooper is good enough. Says Jason Hamilton. How many times has Will Skelton ever run with the ball, or has Will Skelton even run with the ball once? I think he's had it 3 times? 2 times so far. The others, he hasn't really been able to run onto the ball, though, which I think is the big factor for them so far. Now Bongi Manumbi. Line out throw goes in, taken by Marvin Ori. Now Dwayne Vermeulen crashes at the line, runs almost over the top of Michael Hooper. Stephen Kitsoff again, 10 metres out from the line. Now the box on hot attack. Jean Klein leaves it behind for Lukanuam. Now Reinach. Advantage. Or was it? No, Steve or Ben O'Keefe just says it was knocked back. Reinach going off to Dwayne Vermeulen. Good low tackle from Lena Kittel. Now Reinach tries to snipe on the short side, and it's actually Ikitau who gets him again. He's had to make 2 tackles in a row, whereas the rest of his team. Now Villi LaRue plays halfback. Franz Maharba hits the ball up. The box just phase after phase. They are up to 9. Great strip there. That was that Lena Kitau as well. Now Quade Cooper inside of the in-goal area. Suliasi Vunivalu will give it the right boot downfield. And geez, I miss South Africa crowds and their sound systems. They just said, "Who the F is Alice?" says Marika. Also, Clark doesn't deserve selection. It was a surprise that he did get himself the start, but then saying that, the only other option really was either Stevenson or Amoni Narawa, and I think they are both wanting to be on the right wing, the ABs, or maybe Stevenson at fullback. Does it feel like a typical Eddie Jones side of trying to use their physicality, says username? I mean, we've seen a couple big shots coming in from the Wallabies, but the big thing as well is this is Eddie Jones's first game as coach. And I think it's going to take a bit of time to be able to adjust and try and work out the tactics that he wants to use for the Wallabies. This is a great rolling maul again from the Springboks, setting themselves up just 20 metres out from the Wallabies line. Now make it 15 as they keep on making metres. How about we make it 10? Do I hear 5? Yes, I do. Bongi or Manumbi. Only just out from the line now. Peter Steph-Toy drops the ball, knocks it on, and it is now going to be the scrum feed for the Wallabies. Bring back Robbie, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. And the Loftus, says Gareth there, and definitely Pocock. Pocock, phenomenal player, also currently doing some political stuff, isn't he? I think he's like trying to go for mayor of some region or some sort of parliament role. Was it a Wallabies foot or a Springbok? It was a Springbok foot. It ended up hitting that ball out of the hands of Peter Steph-Toy as the lights are on at Loftus. Sold out crowd. They're loving every minute of it. Definitely because of the lead that the Springboks have now got for themselves. 17 points to 5 with only 35 minutes remaining in this fixture. I should mention, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back for the next contest that is taking place. That is going to be between New Zealand and Argentina. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, Nick White thought about putting the ball in. It will now be the free kick to the Aussies. Do they look to just boot this one as far downfield as they can? I think that will be the tactic. Hamish, my wife, asked me to please ask you to say LaRue and Ruiz are rolling the ball to... Oh, sorry, it's a sentence, isn't it? So LaRue and Ruiz are rolling the ball to Robinson. That was too much tongue roll, wasn't it? I knew what you wanted. My tongue does move very quickly. That's a weird sentence. Definitely to say when you just said about your wife. That's going just outside of the 22. Great kick from Cannon Moody downfield, and Pocock, the human excavator, I should say. And I reckon John Alomo is tackling demons front of Pearly Gates right now, says Stefan. And Francois Lowe destroyed Pocock when they faced in the test, says Albert. Oh man, that knock-on was annoying, says Hanger Rat. They were in a very good position on the field, that is for sure. Nicolette has said go for the box, or go Bok. They're playing a little bit of An old school tune with the 500 miles. Now Nick White, kick down the field. That is a very good kick. Down to Kanamudi, inside of the 22 now. Looks like Villilaroo again will get the chance. Trying to link up with Kurtley Arinsu, who does give the inside ball to now Mako van Staren, the Bulls representative. He's actually been pretty decent throughout this contest. Lenikatau actually asking for a knock on there to no avail. Kobus Reinach now goes back across to Mani Lebok. Villilaroo, Lucanio arm. Couple metres being made every time the Springboks do have a run, whereas for the Wallabies, they found themselves getting slightly more forced backwards. But with 70% possession in favour of the Springboks, the Wallabies don't get that ball soon. It is certainly going to be a tough ask. And Michael Liner and Nick Farr-Jones would be the top 5 greatest Wallabies I've ever seen, says Jason Hamilton. Suliasi Vunivalu, the Springboks win the penalty in the breakdown. Who's that? It's Stephen Kitsoff. He's over the ball, wins the penalty for this box side again. Or did he? Lost his footing for a start, then got back up with maybe a clear release in that one. And Loftus ground, fantastic. Feeling the atmosphere, brilliant. And I should mention that the Springboks, they have never lost at Loftus up against the Australians. Ever since their first game in about 1963, every time it's been a Bok victory. Australians as well, they haven't got the greatest record in South Africa. Last 7 games, they have not won one of them. Spicy Plum, good turnover, says Albert. And go the All Blacks, says Mornay. Now Bong Yumbanumbi lining up this kick. Did you ever play rugby, boss, says Stefan? I did when I was a lot younger. I was out on the wing, but we had a very greedy halfback and a very greedy fly half, and they never passed the ball. So I sat out on the wing for 2 seasons, and anytime you tried to go in a little bit further, the coach would tell you off because the coach was the fly half's dad, and no one else in the team was allowed to touch the ball other than those 2. So yeah, I ended up having to give it up just because I was just tackling, which I mean I didn't mind. That's gone straight out on the full there from Lenikatau. And now the Wallabies under even more pressure. There's a first for everything. Says Sighted Canvas, and the box sound dominant, says Floyd Kingy. And how is Easthuizen working out? I think he's had a very strong game. Andre Easthuizen at inside centre. And it's, I guess, relieving for the Springboks to know that they have got that option if they do need it, whether or not that is due to an injury or whether it is just because they want to go with a bit of a change. But Bongi Manami now, throw this ball in. Nicely taken by Marvin Ori at the front. Kobus Reinach goes off to Mani Lebok. Maka van Staren breaks through the tackle of Quade Cooper, but Michael Hooper able to take him down in the end. Now good ball to the Dwayne Vermeulen. Moves up to 22 out. Reinach to the left. Bong Yumbanumbi hasn't had a huge amount of carries throughout this contest, but it's still been prominent with that line-out game of the box. Now Mani Lebok, short ball to Andre Estes and crashing at Reece Hodge. And Lenikatau. Now Peter stepped a toy with the pick and go. Continuously making meters. Numbers on the outside. Currently a rinser for the hat trick. Gets over the line. And that is going to increase once again his try-scoring tally. How do you not put him in the starting lineup next week? But I believe they will go with Makazole Mapimpi. But he knows where the try line is, which is very good news for the Springboks. What's happened here? Currently, Orinsa sounds like he's got some sort of injury here, maybe. On-field decision is try. They just want to check this one. I'm giving the try. I don't know what would have been wrong with it other than the high shot from Marika Korombedi. There you go. I could have played for the ABs if it wasn't for, says Floyd Kingy. What's the nickname of the Romanian rugby team, boss? Not sure. Sebastian would know. Easy Campese telling it like it is. And hat-trick the next Colby. Or they're just checking to see if it's a forward pass. Oh, this angle doesn't make it look good. It's flat. It's flat. Stay with the try is what they have said. Australia getting stuffed, says Robinson. I'm starting to feel bad for the Wallabies, says Hanger Rat. And I should mention that we are 1 try away for the Springboks from them sitting with a bonus point as we currently sit in this Rugby Championship competition. But Kurtley Arinsa, his hat-trick try, very strong indeed from that man. Maka van Staren, though, couple big crashes up. Peter Steftatoy with the quick pick and go, and then Willie Leroux and Mani Libok seem to actually be a combination that is working quite nicely. Peter Steftatoy with a big fend off of Suliasi Vunivalu, and as soon as they noticed that he was there on the outside, the gap was wide open. 3 tries, 1-man army. The Oaks, says Gareth. We are quite slow. We score by rolling more, says Stefan. And that 11 box solid, says the Snooze. Mani Libok has missed that one away to the side, so that is one part of his game that hasn't quite been as he would have liked today, just missing the 2 kicks so far. And look, Kanuam with a nice pass out to Kurtley Arinsa, and the Wallabies all trying to tackle far too high. All going around the neck rather than around the bootlaces and trying to drive him towards the touchline. Looks like there are now going to be some subs being made. Reece Hodge taken off the field. That is for Samu Karevi. And also now Nick White. I don't think he'll be too far off. Going off for McDermott, but South Africa. Who else have we got? Wallaby debut now for the 33-year-old Richie Arnold. It'd be good to see the Bok really turn the screw now. No cruising, just go full on, lay down their marker, says Kerner Walker. And I mentioned it at the start of this game. Bonus points are crucial. And in this contest, this is a perfect opportunity for the Springboks to reward themselves with that bonus point. Nice cross kick there from Quade Cooper. Out to Pete Samu on the outside, who just threw the ball away. Now Willie Leroux, I think he was tackled without the ball there. And whether or not he was going to be able to get to that ball may not have mattered if he was tackled off it. Can represent New Zealand at the Weed Olympics, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. The penalty has been given to the Springboks for playing the man off the ball. It's just going from bad to worse for the Wallabies at the moment. And Dave, must he laughing his head off, says Reflecting Trees. I'm sure he's certainly happy to get out of there when he did. After this performance from the Wallabies, Sami Karevi has only been on the field 15 seconds, already penalised. Australia will come back into it, says Connor. They're going to have to soon. That's a great kick from Mani Libok, another 5 metres out from the line. And the Springboks rolling maul perhaps is about to get underway, which is always entertaining to watch because they just have a way of manoeuvring it towards the line. They've still got Bongi on Manabi, RG Snyman. I've got my fingers crossed for this man to make it to the World Cup. He's one of the most unlucky blokes when it comes to injuries. But now RG Snyman makes his way on the field, and do they already go to him, I wonder? Nicely taken by RG Snyman to start the rolling maul now for the Springboks. They break off to the other side, and it's over the line. It's another try for the Springboks. Or is it? He's held up. We didn't get to see that one. They were showing the crowd instead. Australia needs to stop playing a rugby, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. I don't know about that. They got a World Cup just around the corner. Who would you give their spot to if you weren't going to have it as the Wallabies, Mr. Papa Giorgio? And look, I support the Boks, but the Wallabies being competitive, as important in the Southern Hemisphere. And who scored, says Janine. It was almost a try. Oh, they want to go upstairs and check this. It looked pretty good from the angle we saw, only because they were showing the crowd celebrating. Big start by the defenders, says the Snooze. On-field decision is that the ball is put up at timing. They run perfectly for the Rugby World Cup, says Floyd Kingy. Okay, Ben O'Keefe has asked his TMO. They're checking to see whether or not Dave Parecki has intentionally collapsed this maul. And if he has, he could be in a lot of trouble. This might end up being maybe even a penalty try, if that is the case. He is up against 4 of the Australians. 2 gold. Who's pulled it down, they've said. I think, this is going to be a little bit unfortunate because I think the reason Dave Parecki, I just talked into my bottle, but because there was water in it, just spilled everywhere. But yeah, I think he was a little bit unlucky because Van Staden did have him quite high, which then made him kind of, he's unlucky. But Dave Parecki, it's going to be a penalty try to the Springboks, and Dave Parecki yellow carded for that one. going to be 10 minutes now that he spends off the field. The Springboks adding another try to their resume here. Going to have to go like this, and we're going to go PT. Anyone wondering, PT stands for penalty try. In this case, there we go. France won the World Cup, the Rugby World Cup. The holy grail of rugby, too much interference from the Timo and touch judges, says Joss. Because that one, I mean, Ben O'Keefe initially gave it as no try, but then when they went upstairs, they realised that it was sacked rather than the held up. It's gone over the top. Oh, hard landing there for Dwayne Vermeulen. The Northern Hemisphere team, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. They have now got another penalty advantage here for the Springboks, and it will be the penalty. They decide to use it. Dwayne Vermeulen landing hard on his back. Looks like he might have. Hopefully, he's just winded, staying down for a little bit. Who was on control of the ball over the line, says Hangarap. I think it ended up. I don't know if it even got to Bongyum Nambi, and that wasn't great. We didn't need it, says Gareth. But yeah, it's the penalty try for the Boks in that case. And go the Boks, says Johan. Come on, Australia, says Connor. Your scoreboard is wrong, says Farid. And there as well. There you go. It's all better now. And also, Boks, says Wonga. And 12 hours until the real test match between Knox Duplessis versus Rob the Reaper. That's going to be a great fight. It's a shame that by that stage, if I stay up for it, I would have been up for about 30 hours. But I'm considering it because it should be a good one when they go head-to-head. Also, Dan Hooker fighting on that card. Robbie Lawler on the prelims. Alexander Volkanovski fighting in the main event. Another title fight between Brandon Moreno. It's going to be a good one. The Rugby Championship is the only cup going to be won by a Southern Hemisphere team this year, says Joseph. Now Wallabies giving the ball away. Suliasi Vunivalu makes the mistake, and the Springboks with Mani Libok get themselves another one. Now 34 points to 5 up over the Wallabies. Mani Libok, his first start and his first try at international level. White tried to kick it back, passed it back to Suliasi Vunivalu, who got confused when his teammate was right next to him. And then Mani Libok able to get himself the interception try. That's another one. This is looking dangerous at the moment for the Boks. Might be heading towards that 50-point margin. And go the Bok. Champs U, says Kyle. And hope France or Ireland win the Rugby World Cup, says Floyd Kingy. And also a round of energy drinks at 4:30 a.m. Oh, no, they're going upstairs now. On-field decisions try. Just to make sure that there's no knock-on in the tackle by the green player. We should check the tackling stats at the end, Amy, says the snooze. And what's the record loss, I wonder, says Joseph. I think it will be a little bit more than this. Right, did it hit? Yeah. Hit Peter Steftatoy's hand. I think that's going to be disallowed. Unfortunately for Peter Steftatoy. Going to show the replay again here, but I believe it's going to be called as no try. I'm going to take the try away now. I'm going to trust, yep, South Africa 7's hand. And Mani Libok's going to have to wait just that little bit longer to get himself that first international try. Is it a knock-on? Come on, Australia, says Connor. It is a knock-on, yes. And no try, says Alta. And 50 points incoming, says Pretty Boy. But at the moment, they still sit with the bonus point in favour of the South Africans. So they would sit with 5 points on the Rugby Championship table if this is how the game ends. Won't save the Wallabies, says Albert. It's going to be the knock-on. Now the scrum feed for the Australians. And count themselves just that little bit lucky there. That bit of extra pressure from Peter Steftatoy as he rushed up. South African supporter living in Korea. Good to see the boys back home. Holding up, says Scott there. Jordan Ulesi now making his way onto the field. So I assume that the Wallabies are going to get rid of one of their backs. Suliasi Vunivalu might have to be the option there. No, in fact, it's going to be Pete Samu who makes his way off. What went wrong for the Wallabies today? Says Lyle. I think they started this match well. After that, though, just a few crucial errors in terms of not just the handling, but also they've missed a few crucial tackles. The scrum hasn't been great at times, so it has made it very tricky for them to get that I guess, momentum at any type of set piece. Yeah, the Boks have just looked very strong, and the Wallabies have looked like a side, in a way, who have just had a new coach. Because, yeah, it's still the first game that we've seen under Eddie Jones. They've still got time to try and change tactics, change combinations, and everything will just be a learning curve. It's just whether or not 60 days is enough for the Wallabies to be able to work that out. Craig Cooper now kicking it downfield. All Boks match winners today, says Neville. Yeah, I'd like to think from here they shouldn't end up being defeated. Now to the left, here comes Marika Koromberi. He hasn't had a run since his try, which, I mean, just kind of goes to show how lackluster this Australian backline has been in terms of distributing that ball. Now Nick White on the halfway line will be able to go for the box kick once again. And 45 is the biggest winning margin for South Africa over Australia. And Boks are really disrespecting the Wallabies, says Farid. And Australia are getting muscled, but the Boks are also getting the rub of the green, says Gareth. Philly LaRue taking that one well. Had a little bit of a fumble with the ball. Kobus Ranak now giving it off to Archie Snyman, his first run back in a bot kit. Ranak able to get the penalty advantage in favour of the South Africans, so they will once again look to use this one out wide. Lukanyawam with a nice step. Hanging on to him there was Samu Karevi. And they're going back for the penalty to the Springboks. Time to go watch Mr. Ballin. Enjoy the implosion, says Jason. I should mention we've still got another game coming up a little bit later on tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That will be between New Zealand and Argentina. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It is hugely appreciated. You guys will be in here for these live streams. Feel sorry for the Wallaby supporters, says Mr. Papa Giorgio. And who do South Africa have next week? Their next game is going to be up against New Zealand. The game after that, they have got Argentina in South Africa, and then they've also got Argentina and Wales. It's two of their August internationals, the warm-up games heading into that Rugby World Cup. Showing that penalty, well worked by Kobus Reinach. Not rolling away one. 22 minutes remaining, still plenty of time for the Boks. Maybe get themselves over the try line at least once more, but Australia managing to get themselves that turnover in the breakdown. Marika Koromberi. In fact, sorry, it is Samu Karevi this time. Counter-ruck there from Andre Estes, and not successful. Nick White pass on the outside. It is a forward pass out to Koromberi. Now South Africa are once again going to have themselves a scrum. What people are playing? If you're asking about the players in the starting lineup, they are going along the bottom just now. You will get to see all of the players who are in the starting lineup. What teams insist on playing on form and penalty advantage, not just stop playing kick with touch, because they sometimes lose, or they sometimes lose the advantage, says Joss. I'm bouncing, catching up later. New Zealand will win tonight versus South Africa next week. Yep. That's going to be a big game taking place in New Zealand. We will be covering that one on the channel as well, ladies and gents. So be sure to check that out. Tate McDermott made his way onto the field now for Nick White. Eddie Snyman, he just towers over most people in the Springboks side. Like I mentioned earlier on, some people don't actually realise how tall Peter Steph Toy is, but he's had a very good game as well. McDermott, he's been given a big role here. They've pretty much said, go onto the field and try and change our momentum. Reinach now will be feeding the ball, and I have to say he has played very well for the Springboks throughout this fixture. Almost losing my voice already. That's not ideal. Now big scrum. Another advantage for the Springboks. They're going to the short side. Reinach with the kick in behind, and Moody just not quite able to keep it in the field of play. Ashes coverage, mate, says Nofrino. We won't be doing it today, mainly because we got international rugby on, but also it's been raining most of the day for the Ashes. So yeah, we won't be having any of the Ashes today. Other teams have got New Zealand worked out big time, says Floyd Kingy, as Orenza still on the field. I believe so. I haven't heard of his sub. We can't see him at the moment, but I believe he is way out on the wing. Maybe looking for some sort of cross-field play. Yeah, there he is, sitting out by himself, scoring 3 tries in this matchup. McLean, he's had a physical game in the locking department. Loftus, cheers, boys. Says Bolly Bear. Numby. Couple options. I believe they'll go to RG Snyman again, though. Oh, they go to the back. This time to Peter Stiftatoy. Takes it nicely. Now we just need the ABs to lose to the Pumas. That would make my day, says Neil Harvey. I mean, it would certainly help out the Springboks in terms of winning the Rugby Championship as well if they are able to get themselves a whole maybe 3 or 4 points ahead of the ABs. That's a big shot on Mani Lebok. Kenna Moody stepping on the outside, flicks it back across field. It was a bit loose, and it sits up for RG Snyman. Finds the offload to Peter Stiftatoy, but there was an initial knock on as well. Knock on by Green. Will now be a Australian scrum. Do you cover Aussie rules as well, boss? I do not. We do cover mainly rugby union. We also cover a little bit of cricket on the channel. And in the past, we have done a bit of rugby league as well. But yeah, no Aussie rules as of yet. Boku Beauty says Quinn and Box haven't really had the best positioning today. Australia have just been poor, says Lyle. Yeah, I think the big thing for the Springboks as well is they've been able to have a lot more of that possession. Currently sitting at about that 70%, which has just meant that Australia, anytime they do get themselves half a chance, the Box just get it straight back, and that has been hugely helpful for them. And welcome to Loftus Oz, on a high field. For you today, says Kerno Wick. And South Africa have got about 25 players who could fit into their top 15, says Floyd King, a new Aussie coach. Same old Aussies, and Bomb Squad Time says Hanger at you. Looks like a few more players be making their way onto the field extremely soon. RG is a centre, says Gareth. Aussie also folding in the Ashes, 139 for 6. It's going to set up for an exciting last day of the Ashes, that is for sure. There's a couple of tasty, says a random hero. Now, time is back on, 61 minutes down. The Box, they still have the bonus point, but one more try here would pretty much secure it, I would say, with the amount of time remaining. But Tate McDermott had to put this ball in for the Australians at scrum time. They've just been really struggling to get that ball out. Great move from Rob Valentini, though, to reach right in, and he's been dropped by Dwayne Vermeulen. Now Tate McDermott goes off to Lena Cattell. Breaks through one defender, but not the second now. Jean Klein in there. Just protecting that ball, the Australians. And every time it gets into the breakdown, they have to make sure that they are there in an instant. Or else the Springboks manage to get themselves the early turnover. Kick downfield from Tate McDermott. Now Kanan Moody having the run at the line. Tries to go over the top of Quade Cooper. Not quite able to do so. Floyd BF 72. In all honesty, says Gareth. Now 30 metres out. Looks like James Slipper a little bit slower getting to his feet, so they may look to make that change of Matt Gibbon in the near future. Lucanio arm with the kick in behind. Sits up nicely for Tom Wright, who's had a very quiet game at the moment. I've been watching the game for a solid 30 minutes on YouTube. There came that stupid copyright note on. Says Luke, so yeah, unfortunately, they are pretty quick with the copyright on YouTube, but that's why we aren't able to show any match footage or audio, because there's a chance you get taken down pretty much straight away, or in some cases you're lucky, but you still get taken down in the end. How do you rate Damian McKenzie's defense tackling since he returned from Japan, boss? I think he's pretty strong, Damian McKenzie, and the benefit that he's got is he's got a lot of heart, and he doesn't seem to fear making that tackle and getting into contact, which, I mean, I think that's massively beneficial. Everyone jamming out in the crowd at the moment. The stadium is packed out for this contest, and we do see now it's going to be Thomas Detoy making his way on the field for Stephen Kitsoff. Bongyum Manambi is off. That is for Joseph Dweber. And then also Franz Malharba making his way off the field for Vincent Koch. So the three front rowers all taken off at the same time. How many minutes left of the game? They've still got another 17 minutes remaining. Thrown to the front from John Ulessi. Goes straight to Rob Valentini. Australians, they have been told to use it once. McDermott tapping on his shoulder. It is going to be kicked up high. Nicely taken by Kurt Learinsa, who at the moment has definitely got a good chance of getting man of the match. Covers Reinach. On back to the right-hand side to Thomas Detoy, his first carry. Making his way onto the field 30 seconds prior. The Aussie Juno said Springboks to protect the Wallabies. when this team was named. She must be hiding under the beer table now, says Elsie. Hopefully I said that correctly. I may have said it slightly wrong, though, so I do apologise for that. Hi, Cooper. It's actually about the fourth time South Africa have kicked that ball out on the full. Australia haven't been able to capitalise on that opportunity. I don't rate Dweber at all. I hope he has improved a little since his last bot game, says Hangarout. I think he actually has. To be honest, he had a rough start to the URC season in terms of those line-out throws, but since then, I think he has got a lot better and is a lot more consistent now than he was last year, which is good news. It's a similar scenario of what we saw for Samasoni Taukei'aho for the All Blacks, how no one rated his line-out throws. He went away and worked on them, and then he eventually kind of became that first choice option. Not the case for Dweber, though, in terms of that first choice. Ever thought of Beauden Barrett on the wing? Not really, no. They've already tried one Barrett on the wing, and I don't think that works, so I don't think they'll try Beauden out there as well. Are the Aussies hungry enough, says Nelson? They haven't really found their momentum in this game, and I would say that it's just they've been beaten by a better side in this contest. Looks like they are now making the changes. Alaratoa making his way off the field for the Wallabies. That is going to be for Zane Ungor, who does get himself his debut, and also Matt Gibbon alongside now in the front row. I read that one. And also the English press will be really happy after this performance from Eddie Jones. Didn't they move Jordie Barrett to 12? They did, yes. And they are going to have him at 12 for that next game up against Rieko Ioane. South Africa lose there, says Floyd. In my opinion, Dweber has the potential to be the best hooker in the world, says Gareth. Now, Kobus Reinach, 42 metres out from the back line. And another scrum. Looks like it's a relatively shaky one from both of these sides. It's wheeled around completely, but the advantage does go to the Springboks. Walking around is the penalty. Matt Gibbon frustrated with that one. I love how you say debut. Says chronic underachiever, or achiever, I should say. If the Boks keep going like this, I can't wait for Eddie Jones' press conference. Now kick downfield from Mani Lebok. South Africa, I believe they will be doing a majority of the attack in the last 10 minutes or so. Eddie Jones can't manage the box. The box are always, according to history, too much. They need to overcome. Says Johan Hanger, I believe you don't rate Dweber because the Stone Cold stare against the All Blacks, then messed up every line out from there, says Xavier. There's Willemse on as fullback. I see that Dion Fourie has made his way on from Marco van Staren, also Kobus Reinach making his way out onto the park. I don't see Damien Willemse as of yet, though. For now, he does just have to wait that little bit longer. Big run forward from Andre Esterhuizen. So Grant Williams is also now on the field, I should mention. That is for Kobus Reinach, who has had a good game throughout the fun. This is basically the Boks B side, and the Wallabies are struggling. The A side is in New Zealand. Says Riyadh. I mean, I feel like it's a bit of an insult to a few of these boys out here. They've had a A-side performance overall, you know, like, was it a knock on from Peter Stiff-Toy? No, just manages to hang on to it. And a lot of these guys, I think, will make their way into the final 15 for the Springboks for that Rugby World Cup. Joseph Dweber gets close to the line. Now Grant Williams goes back across to Peter Stiff-Toy. He's over the line. Ben O'Keefe looking for it. It's going to be held up. We have got a new member on the channel. It is Albertus. Thank you very much, mate. Usually appreciated. Australia beaten in every aspect: defence, contact, set piece, rucks, kicking game, accuracy. It's one of those days you just say effort and have a beer box too good. And yeah, the disrespect is unreal. B team, says Chronic in there. And Rassi versus Eddie in a boxing ring match. Or in a boxing ring, please. Are they in the same weight class? I feel like Eddie might not quite have that reach advantage that Rassi would have. I feel like Naneba versus Eddie Jones is a more likely boxing match because I think they're quite similar in their weights and their heights. And 100% or winning, when the Wallabies are not at 100%, isn't very satisfying, says Handing a Rat. And great game, boys. Best to come from here, says Neville. And also, we have got a welcome Albertus from Scrumless. McQuaid Cooper apologising to his side. This game has just not gone right. For Australia, it's going to be a 5 metre line out. A 5 metre scrum now for the Springboks. And if this scrum is anything to go by, based off previous scrums that we've seen, I think we're going to see the Wallabies getting forced backwards. Nice to join you guys. Go Bok, go Bok, go, says Albertus. It is hugely appreciated you being here. We have got one more live stream tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It has taken place, and that is New Zealand taking on Argentina. So anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. We are going to be starting that one in 1 hour and 45 minutes time. And then from there, kickoff is in about 2 and a bit hours. And go Bok, 29-5 will do, says Marshall. Although I think they're keen to get themselves maybe 1 or 2 more in this contest. And that's a big push at scrum time. Grant Williams to the short side, tries to find the offload. Curtly Arinsa, that might have been, they've caught that as a knock-on against Suliasi Vunivalu. Now, if that is against him for the one that I think it is, this might end up being possible deliberate knockdown. No advantage offside for the Springboks, only 2 metres out for the line. Now it goes back to Mani Libok, who puts the cross kick in. Kenan Moody just not quite able to hang on to it in the air. Springbok B team beat Wallaby A team, says Johan. Although a lot of people would probably argue that this isn't quite the Australian A team. Like, they've still got a few changes that they would have liked to make, of course, but I don't know what the obsession is about B teams and A teams. Like, for me, I always look at it as like these Springboks guys, like, I wouldn't call them a B team. Like, if you're in the squad, you're the A side because you are the side. You know, like whether or not you've got a young player in there shouldn't determine your ranking of a whole side, if that makes sense. Yes, you're missing a couple big players in there, but, you know, for me, like, I don't see B sides as a thing. I see A side because they're the side, you know? I think the South Africa B side should rather bet on New Zealand next weekend, says a man. And then Rekas du Plessis says RJJ, so they're checking this one out. I think this might end up being a penalty try against Suliasi Vunivalu. Australia shouldn't show up to the Rugby World Cup. It will be catastrophic. Now that the box made us proud, let's support Rekas du Plessis, go boy. There's Neville. It's going to be a penalty try and a yellow card. That is the second penalty try that we have seen against the Australians in this matchup now. Within 5 metres of the goal line. How many games have we ever seen with 2 penalty tries in them? Doesn't happen too often. And also Bruno said, oh, rubbish, Johan, what players in that team are B squad? Says Bruno. And time says Jan Ray. At the moment, it is 10 minutes remaining, or in fact, 11 minutes remaining in this one. And a barrage of the box bombs beating out the Wallabies team right now. And come on, the Aussies is Peter Stowers. And scrum over the line in action. Suliasi Vunivalu. Deliberate knockdown. Morning, Kiwi lads. Just open me eyes. Oh, Aussie, get in a whip. Says Spider-Mick. And he accused the box of disrespecting Australia, not picking the strongest side. Says Farid. And how much time is left? Says Jan Ray. Still at 11 minutes from just before. I don't think Bok is a B team. If you put on a Bok jersey, you need to be there. South Africa got good players, says Albertus. Exactly right. Like, there's so many great players who aren't in the Springbok squad. And, you know, these players who have had to make their way into the team, they've had to work years and years, hours and hours in the gym, on the field, trying to get themselves the opportunity. So, like, yeah, I don't really see it as a B squad or a B side. I see it as, you know, a Springbok side that, you know, might not be too far off what they select for the World Cup. If there are injuries, if there are players out of form, like this side, I think is more than capable of beating the best sides in the world. South Africa totally dominating this game. Aussie looking dire. Does New Zealand have another language? We do have Maori, although not too many people know it. Overall, no stupid cross kicks. South Africa patience and discipline. South Africa coaches never call their squads A and B. This is, it was from Brian. It's their thinking to have 2 teams that are formidable. Exactly right. Like, it's just more of the case of having team 1, team 2, not based off ranking, but based off just you go this way, you go this way. 2 good sides, you know? I have a taste of biltong, says Pretty Boy. I haven't actually tried it before. I saw there was a Bottlers in the local supermarket like 2 months ago. And I'm sad that I didn't buy it because now there haven't really been too many more in there. And these Boks playing with confidence on game 1. That is scary to see going into the World Cup. Maybe be real. We box have a full team sitting with you in New Zealand. Are you telling us the Box team and the Box team watching are equal to each other? South Africa is just spoiled for choice. They are, but to call certain players B-class players seems rough because at the end of the day, they're playing internationally, aren't they? And there was a patch where they didn't have Khaleesi, they didn't have Lukhanyo, they didn't have Eben Etzebeth. So just straight away not having players due to injury, in some people's mentality, they would be like, "Oh, it's the B team then because they're missing my favorite player or they're missing the guy who I think's the best." But it's the squad, it's the team, and they won't see each other as one player is better than the other. They'll see each other all as a team and a squad of equals who want to all represent their country in the best of their ability. It's not called A and B side; it's called depth. Perfectly put. Now, Sami Karevi having the spin there. 9 minutes remaining. Matt Gibbon, nice cutout pass from him. I think it was Carter Gordon, and once again, it's travelled forward. Hey, I'll make it clear there's no such thing as a B team, says Spider-Man True. Hamish says Blues next. Have ever withdraw from Super Rugby will harm New Zealand and Australia for the years to come. Do you live more close to Christchurch or Eden Park? Christchurch. I'm in the same island as Christchurch, not the same island as Auckland. And Buller says Pacific Arnie, welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing extremely well. And the drop was bad. Both sides with the World Cup year ahead instead of running a full cycle, says the snooze. And great game, says Alta. Very good performance from the Springboks side so far. And I've got the bonus point secured. Are you going to commentate the Under-20 World Championship semis in the final, says Neil. It is part of the plan. I'm hoping to do them tomorrow night. I think we're also covering some of the Ashes round at the same time as one of those games, but we are hoping to do, actually it's the night after, isn't it? So yeah, we might be able to cover those semi-finals on the channel. The only thing is I'll probably end up getting about 3 hours sleep and then going to work afterwards, which might not be ideal, but that's what we do pretty much every weekend anyway. He's going to be knocked on by Andre Estes and who landed flat on his face. Unfortunately, this is definitely not a B team. Also need any B or don't have any B teams, but this is not a full strength team. Will you admit? Yes, says Looney. So yeah, full strength side, maybe not complete, but still like a very good side. Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to see you. Mr. Supro, no homo says deep sport. We might have it on for next week, perhaps. Do you know where any of the AB players live? Or have you met any? No, I don't know where any of them live. Haven't met any of them. I mean, an ex-All Black, Norm Maxwell. I know that he lives in Spain at the moment. I won't give you his address, though. Don't think he'd want that. Please come back, says this news. And Sia Khaleesi isn't good at all, says Werner Fouché. Another penalty advantage at scrum time against the Wallabies. 5 minutes remaining of that yellow card. And to be honest, for the Wallabies here, this game, it can't end early enough for the Box. They want to keep on going and increase their points differential. Now 5 meters out from the line, Peter Steph-Toy, tackled by Jordan Ulesi. Grant Williams sees the gap opening up, gives it off to Andre Esterhuizen, who's tackled by Richie Arnold. Now Evan Roos, tackled well. Joseph De Weber drives at the line again. He's been decent since making his way onto the field, Joseph De Weber. What do you see Box Australia doing in the tournament after seeing this match, says Yako? I mean, my prediction at the start of the year, or actually on the podcast about a week ago before the competition started, I predicted that the Springboks, that's an easy try. Peter Steph-Toy taps it around the side of the breakdown and gets himself another try for the Springboks. But yeah, I predicted the Springboks to win the Rugby Championship, and I predicted Australia to finish fourth, I think I gave them, which at the moment's probably not looking like a bad shout. Pronounced Lune. Yeah, so hopefully I will say it correct. Lune, hopefully that is better. And many say Rico should have stayed on the wing. Yeah, quite a few. That's the word on the street here in New Zealand anyway. Well, it's 36 now. Who scored? I'm streaming from my phone and people keep texting, says Wonga. So we're seeing 3 tries from Kurtley Arinsa, 2 penalty tries, and then also that 1 try now from Peter Steph-Toy near the end of this contest. The Box are cutting the throats. Oh, Wallabies are live. Argentina will win both games against Australia, says JP. Although they do only get to play them once this year, but I get what you're saying. Drive for the box, says Albertus. And any coach you pick a side, that's a team you lose, you lose. No excuses. Like it's a B team. Load of says, I was there from Spider-Meek. Again, this isn't a B team. Please understand. There's no disrespect ever shown to Australia. And Ushwood on the street, that's gangster. And Dweber is going, or is doing his best to make up for his poor showing in the URC final, says Lune. Only 41 on the board. Mani Libok got that kick over as well. They will now make the score 43 points to 5 in favour of the South Africans. I like Rico better at inside centre, says Chronic Underachiever. Has he played at inside centre before? I think we've only ever seen him on the outside, haven't we? Unless there's some sort of injury that he has transition. Is Eddie in trouble now? No, it's his first game. I don't think they'll play one game under a new coach and then sack him. Is he in a tough predicament? Yes. But, you know, we saw Borthwick, his first game for the English. They got a hiding, didn't they? We saw Wales, their first game under new management. They were beaten. Just whether or not they've got enough time to be able to turn it around. Did anyone predict the score? This Scrumless? Not that I saw. I think I saw the most one-sided was about 14 points in favour of the Springboks. He has been in trouble for years, says Farid. And Weber's quite a player, unfortunately, says Verno, although he's been playing pretty decently for the Stormers. Yes, the final was a bit of an exception, but I feel like he's got a decent chance of being able to stick around there. He's certainly got the running game. It's just whether or not the lineouts do go in his favour as well. I mean, outside says Chronic. What was my score? 45-19, said Reis. Okay, 43-5 is a major blow to Australia. Not a good day at the office for Eddie. Well done, Bok. Back to the drawing board, Eddie. And Irish squad watching claim, thinking we made a huge mistake. Says Dalba now to the short side. Graham Williams onto Cannon Moody. Another tackle broken here from the Springboks. Kicked him behind. No, Marika Kurumbeti does end up catching the ball, but ends up walking into touch. 1 foot. Just a little bit too close to the side. Snyman has a skin badgy hairstyle and question, are the Boks really playing this well? Or is the Aussie just really bad? I think that the Springboks have played very well in this match, and it has also created the fact that the Wallabies are playing bad because of that extra bit of pressure. Attendance for this one, 50,089 for this matchup. Marks and Umbanami much better, but you still need a third. And at this stage, it seems like Weber is going to be that third option for the Boks. I mean, they've got a few of those other guys. Johan Grubela, Kieran van Vieren. A few options around that they could look at, but at the moment, Joseph Weber, because of that physicality, I believe they've decided to keep him around. And does better when he sees less, says Lune. And Eddie just can't overcome the Boks. The Boks are just too much for him, says Johan. Now, Lena Cattell forced him to touch again. You saw way more predictions of Australia scoring more. And we're simply the best, says Betsy. It's a physical slaughter by the Boks, says Johan with the emoji. Oh, this sounds like a yellow card. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, that's a yellow card finished. Look like he has a V13 in his chest, says Craig. Now, Suliasi Vunivalu. I don't think Damien Willems has made his way onto the field. I think this is strategic from the Springboks here. They've decided that rather than... Oh, it's not straight again from the Wallabies. Does anyone know of Kevin Bloody Wilson? He's an artist, and he's got a song that I feel would completely summarise the Aussies' performance. And it's called I've Had an Absolute of a Day. And that word in between, with it in the sentence, summarises this Australian performance for them, unfortunately. Everything that could go did go wrong. That is a line from the song, and everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong, unfortunately, for the Wallabies. But Springbok, very good throughout this game. That is for sure. Fantastic game from the Bok. And sorry, Australia, that scoreboard doesn't look lekker, says Iaco. And well, with Eddie's record lately, the Oz team could feel vulnerable going forward. They might question the training and the game prep methods. Coach's team, an absolute punt of a day, says Apollo. Yep, you know the one. Now, nice run around the side from Ivan Ruiz. It's the 80 minutes I think the Boks will go for one more try. They want the half century on the board. And big run forward from Dion Foree. The Stormers blindside flanker that's gone wrong. And the Aussies have got the ball back for how long? Just throwing it away without the looking for the passes. Michael Hooper almost picked up and dropped by Cannon Moody before he even hit the ground. He was looking to the referee. Now it's just looking like a game of Aussie rules, which is possibly what might benefit the Aussies with that ball being so loose. Given has some very boundary pushing music, says JC. He does. Probably would get cancelled nowadays, more than likely. Mate, my missus does that Kevin Wilson song to a T. Nice offload. Here comes Carter Gordon, one of the newer names for the Australians. They're going to finish it off with a try on the board. It doesn't cancel out the bonus point of the Boks, but it makes it 33 points difference with a kick to come. They should just give up now, says Patsy. Well, fair play to Carter Gordon, though. One of the younger players on the side. His debut, and he was like, nah, can't finish like we did. You're going to check something as well by the sounds of it. And let's go Boks. Says Mum took me Xbox. Great name. Thank you, Hamish, and the mod's great, says Alta. So I should mention we have got another game just around the corner. That is going to be between New Zealand and Argentina. So we will be kicking off for that game, or the game will be kicking off at 7:10, but we will be starting at 6:50 a.m. New Zealand time. So that is in 1 hour and a half. So be sure to stay tuned for that one as well. I hope Oz play this bad against Wales in the World Cup. We might actually beat them, says Ars Robinson. And thanks all, big love all. Says Scrum Lesson up the Rebels, Carter Gordon. Says Blues Nate. And there as well. It looks like Carter Gordon, he's actually going to be the man who takes this kick. Just trying to line this up. And thank you for the stream, Kiwi lads. No worries. Our scores were bad, says Sean. They were. My prediction of 27 points to 18 in favour of the Boks. I mean, at least I got the right side winning, but I think not too many people were expecting as one side of a affair as we did have. And also, AB's going to smash Argentina, says Polly Bear. And does Argentina got a chance? I mean, I want to say yes, but seeing this performance now, I wonder. I hope they do. I hope it's going to be a close one. And Eddie, you got some explaining to do, says Lune. And thanks so much, as always, excellent commentary, says Talana. Thank you very much. And Verno said, thanks for the commentary, mate. And don't underestimate Eddie. And his boys, the slots will do them well, says Nazi. And off to Discord, Hamish, please pop in, because we need to discuss this, says Gareth. Yeah, we will be popping in, I guess, a little bit later on. I'm not too sure if we've got a post-match review organised. Myself and Rugby Itch. He is a Boks supporter through and through. Some of you guys question his accent at times. I saw that someone thought that his accent was fake, which was weird, because it's not. It's just very muddled. In fact, what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, some of you may not know of Rugby Itch before, but what we're going to do is we're going to add him to the live stream while we're doing our post-match review. And I want you guys to try and guess where you think he is from. Okay? Some of you guys may already know, so if you already know, be sure to keep it secret. So Australians, and you're like, oh, don't call them the B team. We had a whole discussion, JP, about how, are they a slightly, not the strengthiest side in terms of all of the names that they've got available? Yes, but are they the B team? No, they are part of the team. It's Springbok B team beating Wallaby A. Okay, I can see that that's going to be a common term used, isn't it? Even though we disagree with it. I love this Bok approach. They look so dangerous with the ball in hand, says Kirk P. And also thanks for the great commentary as always, mate, says Luke. And talk to me, lad, says the snooze. And here is a question, Aussie versus Argentina, bottom of the log in question. I think next week's going to be a very important game. Is there a post-match review in the new channel with Rugby Itch? It won't be on the new channel, but it will probably be on this channel. I have sent him an invite over. I couldn't resist, says JP. It's going to be a term that's used a lot. I don't know where my, not hatred for it, but I feel bad for the players anytime that they're a part of a team that gets called as the B side, just because it's those guys have put in hours and hours and hours to try and get themselves in the team, and then people are like, oh, you're only a B team player, And Rugby Itch has a wonderful melange of accents. And Boks have a diluted team. Says Patsy, and thanks, Hamish. Says Kurno Wick. And also, Arinza hat-trick, the ladder's on fire. Yeah, for me, he's got to be man of the match. And I think a lot of people would agree. I mean, here's a take for you. I don't know if it will be popular, but the way that Kurtley Arinza is playing at the moment, I think it's going to be Makazole Mapimpi who has to step aside for Arinza in some of those games. Yes, we saw him miss a tackle early on, though, so maybe they'll be like, nah, Makazole Mapimpi because of the experience. Because I see a lot of Makazole Mapimpi in Kurtley Arinza in terms of that clinical nature of scoring in the early stages of his career. Kiwi and Aussies don't understand the level of the URC, says Jono there. I do. I watch it. I cover quite a few of the games on the old URC, even though it means that we miss a lot of sleep. This is our A team, says Marshall. And what time's the next game? It is going to be a 7:10 a.m. kickoff New Zealand time. We are starting at 6:30 a.m. though, to be sure. So check that out. And thanks, Irish. See you in the AB's game, says Random Hero. We have got our desk, or not our desk. I don't know why I called you a desk, mate. I meant our guest, Rugby Itch. It is 5 a.m., but ladies and gentlemen, with me, here he comes. It is Rugby Itch. First of all, mate, bit of a strong performance from the Springboks for their first game of the Rugby Championship, wasn't it?
Yes, a pretty strong performance indeed. I was actually just shocked, really. I think throughout this whole game, really, because I mean, again, the Wallabies did get off the game. You kind of roll in with that try through Corbetti, but then from there, the Wallabies were really nowhere to be seen because the Springboks just kept attacking, and got some tries from that, and even a few penalty tries. So it really was when you have like more than 2 penalty tries, you can definitely tell it's a very dominant performance, I'd say, from an attacking standpoint. And the Wallabies definitely have a lot to work on. And Eddie Jones, I'm not sure if he should be impressed by that, but at the same time, I guess there's a lot he can learn from the performance. Overall, I'm just happy as a Bok fan. Very happy.
Because a lot of the coaches who have taken over new sides, you look at Borthwick, you look at Gatland, like I don't think many coaches who have just started coaching their team have actually walked away with victories yet. And some people forget this is Eddie Jones's first time that he's actually coached the Wallabies in this Rugby Championship. So it's going to take time. Did we expect the Springboks to be that dominant? Probably not. We thought it might be a little bit closer. I mean, our predictions, we both said the Boks to win, but not by, what did they get in the end? About 31 points difference in this contest.
That's incredible. But that's the thing is that we both predicted. Like I think I only predicted like 27 points to I said 27 points to 16 or something like that. I think that's why I said something around there. And I think we had a similar scoreline. Like you said, like 27 points to 18 or something. It was very close in terms of what we predicted. But I mean, a lot of people actually in the comments, actually in that video that we made, actually said, I mean, most Bok games actually do go 30 plus. So I guess we weren't really kind of listening towards that stat. So I mean, hey, fair enough. The Boks were just impressive throughout the whole game. Again, this was it was a dominant performance. And when we hit the 43 point mark, I was like, wow, geez, are we going to get 50 here? I was kind of like, I don't know. I think from a Wallabies perspective, I think everyone was kind of dreading that didn't happen. But luckily, we got to try at the end. Connor Gordon, very happy for him, by the way, because it was kind of cool to see just for the few, I think for the last 10, we got to see Tate McDermott and Connor Gordon kind of team up. And that might be, that's going to be probably the combination for the future guys, in my opinion, for the Wallabies. So it's kind of cool to see how that worked out because, in my opinion, I think Connor Gordon looked pretty impressive, I'd say, for the Wallabies. I know, obviously, there's not a lot of talking points you could say, but I think Connor Gordon, for what he did, I thought was impressive. So, fair play to him. But, I mean, what about you? What about you, though? Like, who do you think was your man of the match? Like, was there someone that stood out for you?
Yeah, Kurtley Arinza. He had it from pretty much those first 2 tries, and then the fact that he got his third as well, just put the icing on the cake. For the Australians, I was talking about it at halftime. It was hard to pick a Springbok player who hadn't had a above average half. Like the only players I could think of was maybe someone because they didn't really have the ball that much. But for the Australians, it was quite hard to pick players who were doing well. Tom Hooper, I don't know whether or not he was injured or
he was injured.
Whether or not
he's injured.
He didn't look flash, did he, in his debut, unfortunately?
Yeah, he didn't really get to stand out, unfortunately, because I think he was taken off actually at the 20th minute, and so it was really one of those I just feel bad for him because he's someone who I even said this from my live stream. Like Eddie depends on that sixth position. Like he depends it on a very heavily, really, because you have some like Courtney Laws obviously in the past for England. I think you had Michael Lynch. I believe you played at six there for Japan back in the day. So again, there's always been a good six that you kind of rely on there. And yeah, with his choice, which was the young gun with Tom Hooper. I mean, to have him kind of just out of the game following his injury, like 20 minutes into the game, it's kind of a bit unfortunate. But
it was a risk that didn't pay off for Eddie Jones.
Exactly.
I think he thought that maybe that was going to be the one that could make the difference in terms of being like, hey, here's a guy you've never seen before. See how you go up against him. But then like Dwayne Vermeulen and all those boys just went kind of just
And the thing is
they got rid
with,
of him. Oh, the cops
and I
are
was gonna say, with they're always out at night. But I was gonna say with Reece Hodge, I actually don't think the combination of Reece Hodge and what was it? Nicotel worked actually. Again, I can understand why you have someone like Reece Hodge, but I think when Karevi came on the field, it seemed much smoother in terms of that back line. So I don't think the Reece Hodge kind of idea worked. Maybe it's just a one-off instance because again, it is against the Boks. But I'm just saying, for what I saw, that combination that Eddie likes in terms of the 10-12, in terms of having two playmakers, doesn't seem that it was working for this particular game.
I think that the Wallabies tactical side of things weren't quite right for this game because like that kick at halftime was so confusing. Reece Hodge missing 0 from 2. Hey, we'll give him a kick from 66 meters out.
I just didn't get it. I didn't get it.
To be fair, it was straight, wasn't it? It was at least accurate, but like that was probably the time that if they had gone for the corner and managed to get themselves some points on the board, that going into the second half, I feel that a little bit better, but Eddie, the legendary loser. I'm interested to see how the post-match press conference does end up going. Is that the South Africa B team? No. It was a good team for the South Africans. We've had this debate already. We were saying that it's not a B team, it's not an A team, it's the team. If you're in that Springbok squad, you've done more than enough to be classed as one of the best in the world.
You can make the argument saying that it's not their best team, but but like you said, it's a Springbok team though. It's not actually a B team or a C team, so it is really kind of in the middle. It's like a I don't know, like a if you just say like
I saw someone describe it as I feel like the most close someone's been in terms of if they were referring to B and whatnot was I saw someone say it was a B.5. I feel like that is the only way I will allow the B team kind of thing because it is better than a B team. It is close to. I mean, this could be a World Cup lineup, and they would do well.
For me,
and that's scary for other sides.
I think it's like an A-. That's kind of the way I would grade it. Like they're like the A- team, and you have the A+, which will be used within the World Cup. So there's not a lot in it in terms of this team, guys. Because really, if you take out players and put them into this side, you would only put Damien Zalende in terms of Andre Esterhuizen, probably Malcolm Marks if you had to. I'm just saying it's the best team overall. I'm not saying who would generally come off the bench. I'm just saying the best team. You probably have Malcolm Marks, Abinette Smith, Khaleesi, Andre Pollard. I think overall you have 6 players there, maybe roughly 6 players who may come into the side. But you have to remember that a lot of these players in this game in particular who normally play in those positions actually stood out. I mean, the big one actually I thought was Andre Esterhuizen. I thought he had a brilliant game for the Boks. I thought he is one of my until Curly Lorenzo scored 3 tries. I actually think he was my man of the match of the game because every single time he got the ball, he would gain meters and a lot of meters actually for the Boks, and just he kept moving forward. I mean, who else was there? Marco van Staden I thought was pretty good at times. And Matty Limbach, I just thought controlled the game overall. I think he had a really good game actually. So but I do agree with you back when you were talking about your man of the match that Curly Lorenzo is definitely the man of the match for this game. 3 tries. It's just that's impressive. I think he now has 10 tries overall in 10 games, that's a ridiculous stat. But yeah.
Yeah, so up against the ABs, I was talking about it that they'll probably go Makazole Mapimpi out on that left wing, although Arunsa is certainly putting his hand up to possibly leapfrog Mapimpi in the near future, depending on how it goes. Esterhuizen is like Sonny Bill Williams, draws in 2 defenders every time. Yeah, he bet 5 defenders today, managed to make over 50 metres for the Springboks, and was just playing a real physical game of rugby. And I think this was the performance that he needed for people to be like, okay, like this guy is the real deal, because some people were still uncertain. But I feel like this match, of course, he'll want a few more like it. But I think the way that he attacked today shows great promise for the Springboks. If anything was to happen to Damien Dearlendy in terms of injuries, I feel like they can rest easy knowing that Andre Esterhuizen should be able to come to the rescue.
Yeah, agreed.
Kurtley Arinsa took the boots from Mapimpi, says Johan, and Esterhuizen is such a good player, says Scrumless, and 11 Colby at 14 Arinsa come the World Cup. Interesting. Why wouldn't you leave Arinsa out on that left wing, seeing as he just got himself a hat-trick there, and then leave Colby on his right? Is there any reason behind the switching of the two, Big Light? Do let me know. It reminds me of Marius Jalbert hat-trick against the ABs. Says RJJ and Arinsa the best. Says Dreas, and also Dua Bok. Tim, come on. Says, was it Gareth? I actually asked people to try and guess whereabouts you were from.
There's not unless they've seen the one video, which I made a video on this, by the way, guys, on my channel. Like, it's called Hugh's Rugby Itch. It explains everything to do with where I'm from and my accent. So be very surprised unless you've seen that video, that you wouldn't have guessed it. I mean, was there any close guesses before I get into it? Or
I saw someone guess that you were half English, and someone also guessed that you were slightly Irish, and maybe even a little bit South African.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a bit of confusion. I understand that. I mean, like, the way I always say it, just to anyone who I first meet, is that I was born and raised in Hong Kong, so Hong Kong is my home for me. My mom is American. My dad is from Zimbabwe, and I have an American passport and an Irish passport. And when it comes towards rugby, I know this is kind of a bonus, but when it comes towards rugby, I do support the Boks, because my dad's dad support the Boks, and I've kind of watched. That's kind of how I got into rugby in the first place, and I support the Auckland Blues within Super Rugby, just because we're a family friend, you could say, of Ali Williams, who at the time when I met him was the captain of the Blues. So, and we were definitely not the team we are now. So trust me when I say this, that I'm definitely a loyal Blues supporter when coming to say, I'm going to support your team. But no, hopefully that's a good summary of what that is.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any accents that you're really good at that isn't your accent?
Oh, not a chance. Not even a chance. Like, that's the thing, is that, like, my accent, by the way, like, people, I think, even in that video I mentioned, like, said that they thought I had like a Canadian accent or like a British accent and some of that. But normally the answer I get is that whenever I'm in America, people assume I have a British accent. But whenever I'm in the UK or even in Hong Kong, people just say I have an American accent. So it's one of those where, I'll be honest, I actually don't even know what my accent is. So when people ask what's my accent, I literally just give them the honest answer saying, I don't even know. So it's very different, to say the least. But yeah.
I think unique's the better word for it than
different. Yeah, it's unique. It's definitely unique. But I know a lot of people say people understand the accent, which is at least a good thing, because if it wasn't like, I don't know, if they weren't able to understand it, that would be like, I'm like, damn, like, that stings a bit, stings a bit. But no, it's all good. It's all good.
Speaking of stinging a bit, anyone who's just tuning in now, 43 points to 12, Springboks victorious over the Wallabies. So they walk away with a bonus point win and a points differential of plus 31 for the Rugby Championship. And I feel like now they're in the scenario of they get to sit back, relax, have a braai, and work out what's going to happen in that All Blacks versus Argentina game, which is only just under 2 hours away. And we will be doing the same minus the braai. Because do you have a braai at your house, Tim, in England?
I wouldn't be allowed to have a braai here. I'd be kicked out if I did have one. But I do have a quick question actually for you, because I saw a lot of people mentioning it in the chat. Because I do remember someone said that, like, the whole Cheslin Kobe to 11 and Curly Lorenza at 14. But it got me thinking, when it comes towards the World Cup situation, like, just imagine we're in a final, like, or maybe, let's just say final, because I think that's the better way of saying this. If we were in the World Cup final once again, would you go with the same back three with Mpimpy, Cheslin Kobe at 14, and Willie LaRue at 15? Or would you actually go with Kirby Lorenza instead of Cheslin Kobe? Because I think that's really the only switch you can really make here. And you're not really going to change. I think Mpimpy is more solidified as the 11 than what Cheslin Kobe is at the 14. I know that's a bold call to make, guys, but I think you do have to remember that Cheslin Kobe hasn't had as much game time in terms of international rugby compared to what Mpimpy's had in the last few years. So, and Curly Lorenzo's form has been 10 tries in 10 games is like, it's unbelievable. I can't remember another player like, I saw a stat, I think, I might be wrong in saying this, but Sever Reese got 7 tries, I believe, in a Rugby Championship. And I think Curly Lorenzo is the only other player, I think he got 6 last year or a 7, like he tied the record. But it's impressive form. So, what do you think? Do you make the switch or do you stick with the original squad? What do you think?
For me, of course, we've got about maybe 90 to 100 days or so before that. So maybe with Cheslin Colby, if he is getting more minutes throughout this Rugby Championship and the internationals, he will be back to his try-scoring ways. I feel like him and Arinsa are slightly similar, but also different in a good way. But yeah, will depend heavily on Makazole Mapimpi for his form, because if he is struggling in terms of, he's not crossing the line as much as Kurtley Arinsa, because you've also got to ask that question for Arinsa's tries today, would Mapimpi have been able to score them as well? Because, how close to the line was he for one or two of them? But
I think he would have been. That's the thing.
Yeah, so it's a tricky one, isn't it? But for now, I would probably, with the way that Arinsa has been going, you'd have to have him somewhere in that back three.
So what, maybe the 15? Because he does play there for the Bulls.
But
that's the thing. When Willie LaRue comes, obviously, for next year, we're literally going to have what we saw in this game. We're going to have Willie LaRue at 15, most likely, Curly Lorenza at the 14, and Kenny and Moody probably. Oh, no, actually, Moody at the 14, Curly Lorenza at the 11. So that's the thing, is that you're actually now going to switch it slightly because, so it is a bit weird, because a lot of people I see in the chat now are actually saying that would you rather then have Curly Lorenza maybe at the 15, and then you could still have Kobe and Mpimpy. But in all honesty, I think Willie LaRue is such an important player for the Blocks. We literally just saw what he did in this game, guys. The axis between, the pivot really between Libok and Willie LaRue was like, it worked. It worked a tree, really, because they were able to have 2 playmakers in that sense. And instead of what Australia did, where they used a playmaker in the 12, they allowed Willie LaRue to have more space, being positioned as the 15, as in come up then and help the attack even further. So I think that combination works so well. And I don't think Curly Lorenza will be able to do the same kind of he doesn't have that playmaking ability as Willie LaRue. And Willie LaRue just he's a good left foot on him as well. He's able to kick him. So it's tough.
I think his kicking early on in this game really helped the Springboks when he was getting those kicks down to halfway line rather than just outside of the 22. So, yeah, he's one of those players that, as long as he's match fit, if he was injured, that question of who would they put at fullback, they've got a few options, don't they? They've got Kurtley Arinsa. They've also got, maybe they look at Damien Valimza as a fullback option if there was no Willie LaRue. But
that's
then
true.
It's a tricky one. Hopefully we don't see any of those boys getting injured, because, we want to see who's going to be that competitive, or going to have that competitive edge over their other teammates. The way Kurtley Arinsa plays, he should be banned. The way he plays, so good, says Quinton there. Colby is one of the GOATs from an AB's fan. If Colby still has the speed, step and fit, he'll walk into any team. Says Marek, and wings is Colby and Arinsa for Dreas, and Willie, the playmaker that creates tries for the speedsters. Says RJJ.
Yeah.
And Tian has asked if you can speak fluent Mandarin.
Oh, not a chance. No. At one point I could speak Mandarin, but again, you have to remember, guys. Look, I can do the very basics. I can be like, oh, ni hao, wo jia shen mingzi, wo jia Wang Tianli, ni ji sui, wo shi, what is it now? I'm R shui. So I can do the very basics of Mandarin, but I can't remember, in the past, I was able to have a conversation like at least for a minute. And by the way, guys, like I know that sounds small, but like trust me, like when you're having a conversation like we are having right now, a minute is actually pretty good in terms of like speaking another language. So yeah, at one point I was able to do that, but again, as time's gone by, and now that I'm not in Hong Kong in the last 4 years now, yeah, I've kind of lost you could say the ability to speak Mandarin as well as I did before. So yeah, unfortunately, no, I'm not fluent.
See, my tactic, if it gets to a conversation being a minute, I just run away. So then that would benefit me if I was speaking Mandarin.
That's a good way of doing it. That's a good way of doing it.
You look at the watch, 58 seconds, and you're like, right.
Oh, okay.
Gone.
Okay.
See you later.
Yeah.
And then they get the gist of it,
Fair enough.
Talk to them next time, and you're like, oh, where'd you run to? And that takes up 15 seconds of the next conversation. Social skills. All YouTubers have them, don't they? That's why we do YouTube.
Exactly.
South Africa, they will rough you up, says King Murphy, and they did in this game. They definitely, Australia, I think they were expecting a strong box side, but they probably got a little bit more of a stronger side than they expected in terms of, the difference between the two sides was massive. With what we saw with the Springboks, they were just physical. They were making their meters. They were getting it right. The Aussies dropped balls, forward passes anytime they tried to go out wide. Just wasn't quite their day, unfortunately. But the good news is, fun fact, Tim, 2 hours time, we're going to be about 20 or so minutes into that Argentina versus New Zealand game. So I know that your prediction, you said that Argentina were going to win.
I'm calling it. Argentina are going to upset the All Blacks. I'm calling it right now. It's going to happen.
I've already seen that a few South Africans would quite like to see that happen. So you might be a very popular man.
What a surprise. What a surprise. But no, look, at the end of the day, the All Blacks definitely have, on paper, the stronger squad. But you do have to remember that Argentina, this is the first time they're playing at home since, I think, 2019. So, I only saw this recently, but Argentina actually only lost by, I think, a margin of 5 or I think it was less than 10 points actually in the last game against New Zealand in Argentina. And it came from, I think, a Brother Metallic try, which was intercepted. So if that didn't actually happen in that game, Argentina actually would have won that game in Argentina. So you never know. I do think Argentina have the ability to maybe win that game, but of course you do have to remember that Marcus Clemmer obviously is out and is suspended for, I think, the entire Rugby Championship. So yeah, it's a big loss not to have him, of course, but no, it should be good. Really interesting to see what happens obviously in that game. But like I said, I will be cheering for the Pumas, and yeah, hopefully they can do me a favor as a Bok fan and just get the win.
We shall have to wait and see. I think it should be closer than this game, though. That is one big hope, because if it's this one-sided, I would say that it's
don't say that. Don't say that.
I said I wanted this game to be close, and it ended up going one-sided, didn't it? So I'm very good at jinxing things. The good news is I backed the box, and they actually won. So I feel like that's a slight little mini win for me in my prediction stakes. After kicking box from Super Rugby Australia and New Zealand, it's gone down. Box laughing all the way, says Kirk P. And GG says Richard, and he sounds Irish, says Trace. And New Zealand won 38-14. Yeah. And the 15s lad, that crowd was a very passionate and inspiring side. Kids have big dreams. I thought you were going to say something, so we're not quite. No, social skills, ladies and gentlemen.
Social skills up there, guys.
You don't have them. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning into this live stream. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, be sure to check out that pinned comment. The second link is for the rugby podcast that myself and Rugby Itch do on a weekly basis. When's the next one coming out, Tim? Because I don't really know.
Yeah, I think we should. We'll probably have the next podcast pre-recorded on Monday, which will come out. And then we'll do the next live. Because we always do a live podcast, by the way, guys. So that will most likely be on the Thursday, I believe, which will come out there. So yeah, either Thursday or Friday. We haven't really decided on the day really for that one, But no matter what, the pre-recorded podcast will come out on the Monday, as that's really more of the review of all the games that have happened. So definitely come to the channel, guys. I mean, like Hamish said, guys, the link is in the description. And yeah, no, we're trying to. I mean, we've only just started this podcast, guys, so we're really hoping that you guys can obviously get on board, obviously support that channel. We're hoping that we can kind of get towards. I mean, we haven't really set a goal really for that channel, really, but I mean, we're just hoping that you guys obviously just enjoy the content as you get to see a lot more of us really kind of talk about rugby. Yeah, should be good.
And our social skills, of course.
Exactly.
And the lack thereof. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Be sure to tune in the future for the All Blacks versus Argentina game. That is not too far away, 1 hour from when we are starting that stream. So be sure to check that out. But thank you all very much for tuning in. And we'll see you all for the next one.